waking up, looking for inspiration in all the wrong places. Chemical fascination finds our generation. I don't mind, I don't mind, I don't mind, I don't mind. You know I said the horse is dead and clogged and beat and bitter end. You realize in the curtain call is now. Well, I don't wanna give it away, cause nothing in this life is free. Nothing the way you can say no how. Well, I know nothing there for me, and I know nothing real. Short line to the right to end your life, knowing you your breaks the working time. Looking for inspiration in all the wrong places. Chemical fascination spans our generation. I don't mind, I don't mind, I don't mind, I don't mind. Looking for inspiration in all the wrong places. Chemical fascination destroys our generation. I don't mind, I don't mind, I don't mind, I don't mind. Looking for inspiration in my life. Looking for inspiration all the time. Looking for
And welcome everybody. Spline Design Studios Saturday coming up at you. Gonna get right into this here, starting a little bit earlier than we usually do on Spline Design Studios Saturday, an hour almost. Trying to get a little bit taken care of, I guess, as far as got some trucking that I want to do a little bit later, I guess, as far as with good streamer friend of ours, Deuce MS. Yeah, just kind of making room, I guess, on the schedule here, I guess, to be able to do some trucking, I guess, with Deuce and some convoys of their American Truck Simulator a little bit later. So, yeah, figure I want to still keep it with the same amount of time that I usually like to apply to these Spline Design Studio series, and want to cut it too short or anything like that. So, got lots of things to go over here. As you can see, you got the Texas Motor Speedway track build, primarily by Torch, loaded up here. We got some new items, new things, I guess, you would be able to show on that. So I figure that's where we're going to start. Definitely going to make sure that we get in the books here, I guess, as far as to over what I intended to go through last week, which was to show how to apply not only reflection, shininess in the windows for an object, but also the transparency. So those two elements, I guess, at the same time within the model. I do have that very, very, very old, we're talking better part of 6-7 years old, I guess, over on the Safer Bear Project YouTube channel. It just needs a little bit of updating, a little bit of cleaning up. But I guess for starters here, as I already mentioned, I'm going to go over some of the new things that have been applied to the track since last time. One of which was to the outer stand. I did get this figured out, I guess, as far as when I tried to, when I did showcase, I guess, the track in the sim, and the fact that this was all black. Part of the reason for that happening was I had the wrong texture applied to the object within the game track directory itself. So that's been resolved. I did figure that out, I guess, as far as post-stream last week, and hopefully we can keep it that way, I guess, as far as when we showcase the track in the sim once again. But one of the main changes that have been applied to the outer ground here for the track here are the way the skewing was. Primarily, I guess, on this end here, I did showcase that, but I wanted to show the whole grandstand area here. No longer has that little bit of waviness or skewness, off skew, I guess, as far as for that, so they're a lot more straighter. Still noticing, I guess, a little bit of gaps, like in the model itself, I guess, as far as to where the different segments, I guess, to this deal is, but like primarily like right in this area, for example. Just an initial observation, I guess, on that. Very minor changes, I guess, would still need to be applied to this for sure. But this is where I noticed it last week. This is where I pointed out there. You can see that's much straighter. Not quite as much waviness there. The other thing I did notice going through this all, and Torch can feel free, I guess, to elaborate, I guess, on what I'm going over here. Besides that, some of the shadowing that was previously on the signage for the backstretch here and so on has been removed, keeping in mind that the texturing for the outer ground previously was based on that background image, as far as the satellite imagery that was used to build the track in the first place. Torch has taken the approach, I guess, to not use that as a texture, and using that signage texture, I guess, as far as to map texture, I guess, to this outer ground, which does remove, I guess, that already established shading or shadows, I guess, coming off of such items like the big hoss. So these are things that have been taken into consideration, I guess, as far as how to apply that shading back in the form of either fabricated or maybe even possibly an occlusion. I imagine Torch is probably still working on it. So for some of you that have been, following, I guess, as far as the progress of this year, you may have noticed there was some shading on these billboards here that come off the big hoss, for example, and we also noticed as far as the mismapping, I guess, as far as the way these items were mapped here, the shadow was showing up on here as well, and obviously that's all removed at this point. And there will probably be still further adjustments, I guess, to make that, you know, based on how the shading, I guess, for these different items, I guess, will get applied from here. One of the other things that have been adjusted and or applied since last time, kind of going back around to the start-finish line area, we did take note of the fact that the medallions, as far as the SMI medallions, that do take into account, I guess, as far as who owns track, as far as Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, SMI for short, and these medallions initially got applied to the front stretch area as far as by the start-finish line. These have been adjusted since last time. That's what I wanted to take a look at. I didn't get a chance up until right now. Figured I'd save it for stream, just to kind of show what we did witness, I guess, last time, as far as there were some faces and polys that did need to be removed that would not necessarily be seen, for example. We're going to go into object view. I do feel like I am rushing these types of things, but kind of on a crunch here, I guess, for the lack of a better way to put it. And there's probably a good reason for that. I hope everybody is having a good Saturday, though. Definitely falls here. We're barely in the 60s right now, lower 60s. And, okay, so there's ground outer. It was pretty good to be in here, I guess, as far as going out a little bit earlier, I guess, than normal. Probably won't become a mainstay, I guess, as far as on the channel, just so that everybody knows. Primarily just making room, I guess, to enjoy a little bit of trucking, I guess, as far as post-stream here. So if I do seem to be trying to rush things along there, that's just a fair mention, I guess, as far as that's the case. So I appreciate everybody's understanding, I guess, for that. Okay, so it was this one here. So I'm going through that. There's a brand new item here as far as the SMI medium dual, which is this one that's further down. And this is additional items that have been applied newly here. So we've got some smaller ones over here, as far as you can see the size of this one in comparison to that one. So that's definitely a new one, this one here. And we got go back to this one here real quick. So what we want to do is take a look at these a little bit closer, go into the camera view, and look to see what's been done. Okay. I did get that one follow, and I'm hoping it's not what I think it is. So I'm just for the new follow, I guess it came in, I guess, as far as prior to stream there. If you're out there, feel free to say hi. Welcome on in. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into translate here, and I'm just going to pop this out a little bit. So we can probably go on the y-axis, as far as out this way. Z-axis would be up and down, X would be laterally this way. If we move this out, we're going to pop this out. Let's do, wrong way, so I'm going to do a minus on it, not positive. So keeping in mind the way these work here, it always goes by the center, as far as the center, not the center line necessarily of the track, but basically the center of the track, so where the infield is. So any positive would move it away from that, negative would bring it towards it, or on the other side of it, if it will. So you can see that movement. As far as I added a positive value to that, it moved it this way. We want to do negative value, so this way. So what we wanted to take a look at is exactly how much has been taken off from this model. So we still have some polys or whatever that are on the back side, but there are some from the side here that are removed that aren't visible, as far as being inside the geometric safer, as far as the steel. Okay, so we can see that's something that has been adjusted since last time, and that goes for all of these pieces here. The only thing that does still seem to be missing on there, which Torch had mentioned to me, I guess as far as prior to the starter stream, that even though these modifications have been made, there will be further modifications to it to apply more mapping, I guess, to be able to get it to, you know, as far as the welds to this medallion, as we call them, and to get it to you know, fit in onto the wall, I guess, as far as to make it look nice and like it blends in, if you will. So that still needs to be accomplished with that. But so as far as these, I'm going to take a look at that other new model that we have that's further down there. So there has been, that's one of the other new things that has been mentioned to me by Torch, that there are the start of wall logos, I guess, as far as onto the wall. We haven't had these up until this point. So the start of the wall logos, as far as the sponsors and series logos, have been initially applied to here. This is the initial start of it. This is the other model. We're going to take a look at that one here in just a second. So that's the start of it. And then I noticed there's also this down here, which probably outlines, if I'm not mistaken, and again, Torch can feel free to outline that. That is the line as far as where the pit out is, as far as that line to where you can speed. So it kind of extends out from that. So as from the driver's standpoint, you can actually tell from the wall. Yeah, so it's just kind of a visual cue, I guess, as far as not only those that are on the track to know, as far as there's kind of timing lines, right? So there are the electronic scoring and keeping that the tracks do have on there, but as far as visual cues like this or whatever, as far as not only for drivers, for spotters, crews, and things like that, to know if a car that was coming off pit road was ahead of another car, especially like during green flag stops, for example. That's primarily how those come into play. So yeah, nothing in the turns yet, as of yet. That's probably going to be a super big challenge, I guess, as far as to be able to get these model pieces, I guess, to get into there. And I'm sure Torch is probably pacing himself on that to make sure that it's, you know, he's getting that done properly. Once these are set, as far as, you know, once you get satisfied, I guess, as far as what's going on with these 3D model pieces, I guess, on the otherwise straighter sections of the track, will you feel more confident, I guess, to be able to apply them, I guess, through other parts of the track, like the turns, because the turns are going to be a little bit more complicated and have a little bit more pivot in more than one direction, not only from front to back, but also side to side, and so on and so forth. So definitely want to make sure, I guess, the model is good to go prior to be able to doing that. And I'm sure that's probably what he's doing. So the fact that we can set this back to 0, most all the models that are applied to this track, they're all in the 0 orientation, since they are built in the location that they reside, based on 3ds Max. So there's no need to apply the XYZ in this faction. The consistency, I guess, of that is pretty thorough, I guess, to throw that. The models that I've been applying to, that, like the score tower, that's what I think of, I guess, as far as I mentioned that, taking that same approach. I'll be doing the same thing for the victory lane, which I'm going to finish up as well, and also go over, I guess, those that very needed piece, I guess, of information, I guess, as far as how to apply both transparency and reflection to a model, as far as in the form of from the standpoint of 3ds Max. What are the necessary steps, I guess, to take to make sure that that is all where, how it needs to go, to include the scripting. So we got that to go. Alright, so we checked that one out. We're going to check this one out here. This is a brand new model from what we've seen, part of some of the signage to the track. So we're going to navigate over to that. I'm going to go to the drop down menu, and I've mentioned this many times before too, especially with this one being so as small as it is and having other objects in and around it. It's going to be sometimes tough to be able to select what you actually are trying to get to. So in a lot of cases, it's better to go right to the trackside object properties and grab it from the pull down. So the fact that it only allowed me to grab the styrofoam and not the alt wall medallions there I can just go to the list and go through it, and they're relatively in alphabetic order. So I just have to find what I need. So the new piece is this one here, and we're going to go down, shift it over this way, and we'll pull this out much the same way we did the previous piece, and see what we get going with that. I would expect to see about the same. What we got here? We'll pull this out, and we'll do a minus value on this one too. So we'll do a -2 just to kind of pull it out a little bit. Like thusly, and we can see relatively the same construction. So we've got some of the faces and polys that are not visible in the model are removed, and only the parts that are actually visible are present. Just to remove, and again, anything in multiplicity, this is why this is a good step, I guess, is approach to take and steps to take as far as to get it down to the nitty-gritty, I guess, as far as what is needed and what, as opposed to what is not. Because anything in multiplicity that you add that has too many polys and faces to it is going to cause problems. Also taking into consideration, as I've got it in this screen, Torch is taking the approach to apply 3D crowds. So if you're going to do that in multiplicity as well, you have to make sure anything and everything around the areas, you don't want to have too much of that action going on there. So I don't know, I seem like I repeat that over and over again, but that is the number one killer, I guess, as far as lag in any game or simulation that that's what causes it. Just having way too many faces, polys, verts, tries, however you want to put it, as far as the detail that's in any model. When you have too much of a good thing, I guess, as far as in any one given area, it's going to cause lag. It's just the nature of that beast. So if you can design the model to have fewer polys but still maintain, I guess, a level of visual quality, be it aesthetics even, then you definitely want to take that approach. So that's yeah, so it's probably a good thing, I guess, for us to show this. So everything that we can see in this shot, there's several 3D objects in here. So not only the stands themselves is an object that has a certain amount of polys and faces to it. These 3D crowds, as far as just this one little section, has its own level of vertices, faces, and polys. This piece here that I got pulled out has its own. These 3D pieces of foam has its own. So adding that all together in multiplicity is the thing I keep stressing. You want to make sure, I guess, as far as you're reducing all these items as much as possible so that you can still get that visual quality, aesthetics even, I guess, as far as, but maintain optimization as far as, you know, the lack of lag, I guess, as far as going in these different parts here. Because the main thing that we, especially with building NR 2003 tracks, is there's already a ton of detail in the form of polys and things like that with just the track geometry itself. We've seen this plenty of times throughout many track builds as far as creating a DAE model, I guess, as far as to be able to create pieces based on that. And you can see already as far as how many of that. So you're already fighting with the track as it is as far as from the geometry standpoint. So when you're adding just as much detail or more detail, I guess, as far as in models that are applied to the geometric track, that's just going to cause, you know, more and more problems. So okay, trying out some new settings. You know, as far as streaming, trying to give it better quality, I guess, on this here too. So I hope this tends to hold true there. I've been keeping an eye, I guess, on just the overall performance, I guess, of the system here. Make sure that it's all going to go good. Yeah, so he must be on mobile. I think that mobile smiley face is kind of a dead giveaway. But welcome in, asshole. We're just getting started here, really. I guess, as far as a little bit earlier than usual on Spline Design Studios Saturday. Hope your Saturday's going well. Alright, we're going to put this back to 0, put it right back to its original position, so now we've taken a look at what's going on with that. So yeah, there's still some tweaking to do on that model. there could probably be some pieces there that can still be removed from the backside. And I think that was what Torch had mentioned to me, I guess, as far as maybe some further modifications. There's some polys on the backside here that are definitely not visible that could probably be removed. So that's just some of the conversations that I've had with Torch outside of stream, I guess, as far as to make these pieces much more optimized. To include, I guess, as far as to have it blend in, I guess, to the geometric wall here, much the same. Yeah, so this is the difference between the fact that this safer, as well as the concrete here, that's a geometric piece there. So a geometric, you know, as far as in the form of the W section, it is textured based on the W section. And this piece here is a 3D model piece, and the foam is a 3D model piece. So sometimes getting these things to blend in so that it's they all look like they belong there between the 3D model pieces and the geometric can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. But the fact that we've got that in here, it looks pretty fantastic so far. The medallions so far, they do, even from a distance, you can definitely tell, I guess, as far as they kind of look like, whoa, it's like, the heck did those come from? They almost look like they're lit up in comparison, I guess, to the texture that's already applied to the geometric wall. Fun times with house stuff. Oh, that's always good. That sounds like so much fun. So we speaking of like the vacuuming and dusting and laundry. Oh yeah, that's all the really good adulting stuff, right? Yeah. So I think there are some new things that were applied, I guess, as far as track mat items that involve such things as these walls. Torch can feel free, I guess, if he is in chat, to kind of let me know, I guess, as far as what I did miss. If I did miss anything, do feel free, I guess, to keep me honest. In fact, I can take a show, I guess, a little bit, I guess, as far as what is going on with the latest items here. So this is the latest update folder. I'm just going to check myself. So we do have a new PTF change, which does apply the new items, as I already shown, as far as the new track mat items get applied to the safer, for example. I've already shown the majority of the updated ground, the outer ground, and the updates to the previous models, I guess, as far as we showed last week, as far as the SMI logos. Those are the 3D medallions that I've already shown. Plenty of track mat items that have been updated, I guess, as far as just to get things in line here, to include, I noticed he's got turn 1, 2, 3, so he's got these. I gotta take a look at these. So he must have some of these. They're not officially applied here as I go through these. I don't think they are officially applied. Maybe I'll have to take a look here. Let's go down here. So in turn 1, there isn't anything officially applied here that I can tell, but that's probably the precursor, I guess, as far as for that to happen. So we're going to take a look at those. I assume it's going to be, yeah, whatever badging, I guess, that's on the wall here in like turns 1, 2, and so on. Let's take a look at those real quick while we're at it. So turn 1, let's open this up in our handy dandy WinMap 2. Had to adult it today? Oh yeah. I know how that goes. I still have some adulting to do, and I'm kind of procrastinating right now. I'll be perfectly honest. Definitely procrastinating. There's always another day. Yeah, that's the true procrastinator statement there, right? Alright, so we want to go back to that update folder here, which is 24th here. And let's take a look at our track mat items. So these turns here, I don't believe, like I said, these aren't applied just yet. These will potentially get applied to the corners, for example. Okay, so we can get an idea of what those textures are going to look like. And if they are applied, I guess, as far as I may not have the proper PTF, so we'll have to make sure. Oh man, slots is a little bit rusty. May have to oil that thing. I haven't noticed that at the corner of my eye. So we got, okay, let's check all these out. So we got turn 2. I imagine these are all going to be relatively the same, with just a difference in the numbering to it. So it's got, yeah, plenty of the safer part of the track, the wall, as far as that steel structure, I guess, as far as that is the part of the safer. It's got the welds in there as far as the seams for each panel and so on. Let's look at the rest of these. So we got turn 3. Yeah, so you can kind of get the idea, I guess, as far as... So these, from what I can tell, they aren't officially applied to track yet, so, but I imagine these will be at least a precursor, I guess, to that. Let's see other items we have. Open this up. What else did we not check out? So some of these are just... there's the blue stripe. We did see that, because as far as pit exit, entering your pit exit, that's a pretty simple texture. So I did notice this one here. This is the let me open that up. That one, I don't know where that one's at, unless maybe that hasn't been applied yet. Let me go look at the track here real quick. If I can't point it out, let's go back. I think it might have been over here. See what's going on here. So there's really no way, I guess, to really tell where these items are applied officially, so it's not in this area. That might be another texture that hasn't been officially applied to it yet. That's maybe another precursor. Okay, so I'm not sure what that... So that's a hashtag, I guess, for social medias, I guess, for Motor Speedway, I would assume. Let's see what else we got. We got the no limits. Okay, I'm thinking, let me go back here again. I think this is over here. I am not seeing any of that yet. So it doesn't look like any of this is officially applied yet. But obviously there's plenty of precursor here. I'm thinking it might have given me the wrong PTF, possibly. Question mark? George can feel free, I guess, to elaborate on that. And if that's the case, it would just be a matter of getting the proper track PTF that has these already all applied. But at least you can get a sense of what will get applied to the walls in different areas. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close that one. Let's see what else do we have. So we got these media 1 and 2. That one we do have applied. We did see that. So that is definitely very noticeable. There are observations here. So there's that logo. That's applied to that part of the wall. But at least gives you an idea, I guess, as far as how these are, different types of wall textures are constructed. Let's see what else we have. So we got a media 1, media 2. Okay, so we just got different orientations of to the same thing. So some have different signages on it. This one has Geico. Let's open the media 1 again, just to kind of show the comparisons here. This one has Cup Series Busch and Coca-Cola. Torch has done a substantial amount of, when I say investigation, that's probably not the right word. Some observation, I guess, as far as through video, still pics, and things like that around the track during the different events there to come up with what's actually on the walls. So that's what we have for those two textures. As far as media 1, media 2, we looked at that one, the limits, gms.com. We got some top textures, I guess, as far as for the top of the safer, for example. Some of these I think just have been updated is all. Yeah, so I don't know if this is officially applied to the track. This might be on the backstretch. Possibly. Let's take a look at the backstretch here again real quick. Just looking to see if maybe we're missing something here. I am almost kind of thinking I do have the wrong track PTF that has these officially applied. Yeah, so far I'm not seeing those. But, oh, wait a minute, here we go. Here's some here. So here's the TexasMotorSpeedway.com. We got some social media links here and so on. That one we haven't seen yet. Let's take a look at that one. That one, I think, is probably this one right here. Nope, that's the one we already... Yep, we already got that one. Okay, so let's see, which one do we got here? We can always look at the... If it is officially applied to... Physically applied to the... I think it's this one. Maybe that one. Alright, let's do this. We're going to do all on my own device here. let's go back to over here by the backstretch on the inside wall. And actually, from what I do remember too, that is... Okay, now that I think of this too, the inside walls on the backstretch, that's a model. This is all modeled walls. These aren't geometric walls, so that's not going to be in there necessarily. So these might have been already there and I just didn't notice. Let me go to object view. Yeah, I'm already there. Okay, cool. Let me see if I can grab this. Just looks like I can. That's the foam. That's definitely the foam piece. I'm in the general area. Alright, I might have to look at... Yeah, I think that was probably already there. Yeah, I think these are all modeled walls on the interior. Just to kind of re-summarize here. So these are not geometric, these are modeled entirely. I think the only piece that may not be modeled is the fencing here. That's still a geometric. Hence the... what are you doing? Don't be swirling on me. You know, it gets me nervous when it does that sometimes. Let's go to geometry. So this blue line here, as far as that, this is the collision for that. So I think the fences may be actually modeled as well. I think we've looked at that before. I'm gonna take a look at that again, just to kind of refresh my memory. I think this entire thing, to include this catch fence here, this is all 3D modeled. This entire interior here. So there's no need, I guess, to have geometric walls in here, other than just to get the collision property for that. Now, that's probably one good point against the tomato. So the fact that it still has the blue W section, that has automatically the collidable property. Alright. Wrong buttons. Okay. So yeah, that has the collidable property for the wall, so it doesn't allow you, I guess, to go through the wall. So even though you see it visually as well with this blue line that represents the wall collision, when you hit it, for example, like that, it's not going to let you go through it. That's still there. So yeah, I'm pretty sure, and I can probably look at this. Let's go back to... I'm kind of doing a little bit of summary here, I suppose. Back to object view. I do believe... So... Yeah, that's all the foam. So this piece, for example... I'll check my properties. So this one is the inner concrete backstretch. So we're going to look up this model. Inner concrete backstretch, a 3DO. So let's look at that in our track edit folder. It should be. We gotta go back here. We're gonna go here. And inner should be this one right here. So if we open this one up in 3D Sim Ed, we can see that built here. Now I think that's the back side. Okay, that's the concrete piece. Okay, so I think I see what you did here. Alright. I've never looked at it from this standpoint. So that's just the concrete, okay? Hence the way it's named. That's the concrete piece that is modeled. It's got the foam separate, so what I need probably is the safer piece. Let's see what we got here. Let's go back to this. Yep, so that's the concrete piece. Let me see if I can get the... That's the foam. Yep, it's definitely the foam. What is this piece? This one is the... Okay, that's the fencing. So yeah, all these are in each... They're all individually modeled. So the fencing is separate. There's that model. This is throughout the entire infield. So I just gotta remember, where is the... There's the tire walls. Alright, I'm just looking for... I'm not 100% sure what is named the... Second here, I'm imagining it would be inner. There's the concrete, there's the fencing. Walls left and right. What is this one here? Highlight that. That is not what I need. Let's see, what is that one anyway? Okay, so that is... Okay, so that's the entire left and right. So there's got to be something for the backstretch here. That's what I'm looking for. Not 100% sure how Torch would name these, but we're going to see if we can find it. So they should be inner... So the tire walls should be outside of that. I know what those are. Concrete, we already looked at that. Fencing. Okay, black stands. Okay, I guess I'm a little bit lost here. I'm not 100% sure what he named those. Apron, media. Soft wall inner. Here we go. Soft wall inner backstretch. Here we go. So that should be this piece right there. There's our soft wall inner backstretch. Basically just shortened it up. So this one, we're going to take a look at that one in 3D Sim. Actually, I can do it just like I did the medallions. Just to kind of give you an so this really gives you a better appreciation, I guess, as far as how this is broken down into separate pieces there, instead of having all of this like in one model. Because on each piece here, as far as from every level, you would have the ability, I guess, of being able to adjust the number of faces whenever individually, as opposed to all in one chunk. It's always a good thing to do, be able to take it from that approach. So we want to do this here. Let's pull this out a little bit so we can segregate it from. So again, we're going to do want to bring it out this way. So the fact that I might have to do so from the center point, you know, as far as the center of the track, for example, if I apply a positive value, it should come out this way. So on the other side of the center point of the track, based on the front stretch, I had to do a negative value to bring it out. So now I got to do a positive value on this side. So it should work. Watch it make a liar out of me. If I go 2, it sure the heck did. Alright, so no problem. Typically, that's the way it would go. Anyway, I just wanted to pull this out just to kind of show. So this is just the safer portion modeled. Goes in front. And again, you can kind of get a really good sense of obviously some texturing issues, I guess, as far as on the fencing here, will be easily corrected. And I might have pointed this out last time, I guess, as far as, you know, changing this from the geometric standpoint, and obviously that was incorrect, I guess, to say that, but you can see what is all applied to this 3D safer as far as in the form of a model as opposed to geometric. You're able to model in, I guess, many pieces as far as the fact that it does have the different levels. These are 8-inch square tubing that are welded together, I guess, to make that steel wall. That's part of the safer construction. Oh yeah, we can see this all the way down as far as how this is constructed. It's much the same thing for all these interior walls. So the way these interior walls, the medallion was 100% applied in a different fashion than it is to the geometric walls. The fact that we can still apply that same medallion, that 3D medallion that does protrude, I guess, from the actual top of the wall and such, we can do that still, even with the geometric wall, as we've got here. I think I've already mentioned this to Torch too, that as far as having this on the backside, not 100% necessary, unless it is like that in reality. I haven't seen that in reality. So if they do have it that way, obviously you can probably leave it like that, but my thought is that you probably need to have this much the same as the one on the front stretch, where it's there's nothing on the backside as far as in the form of a graphic. So it's just more or less just painted white. Yeah. And this is all based on, I'm not 100% sure what approach Torch would have taken on this as far as to create that 3D model piece. I would assume you probably used the LiDAR as far as to get the shape of it. You know, using probably a combination of both the building it into the track geometry itself, as well as the LiDAR, and then being able to create a model of those independent walls separately, I guess, as far as to get what we see here. But definitely probably using that LiDAR for sure. But yeah, all of this is included in one model, all the way through up to this point. And this is a separate model piece, I guess, as far as these tire barriers. A little bit different approach that they take on the interior, I guess, as far as to add a couple layers of used tires, I guess, to that part of the track. Yeah, so you can see what effort has been taken, I guess, to remove polys that are unnecessary, as far as that aren't 100% visible, you know, based on conjoining pieces. We're going to go ahead and put this back. And that would be much the same thing, I guess, for the rest of those. The rest of the pieces that have been constructed in the same fashion. Okay. Let's roll this back out, put that back to where it is. And just like all the other models, as I mentioned, as far as they are all zero-oriented, because they are built basically in place based on that LiDAR model, the call point data model that we have of the track in reality, to build everything from that point. Alright, so I think that pretty much covers what else is new there. Lots of new stuff here. This is, you know, still, like I said, there's still probably some minor adjustments to still make to this outer ground. It looks a lot better. You can definitely tell the improvements, I guess, from last time. At least I can. Yeah, so it's just some minor stitching, I guess, as far as just to kind of remove some of the gaps based on these individual pieces that are created. You can create this conformity that we have on the outside of the track here. We got some gaps around here, I noticed there too. Very minor things here. Now, he had mentioned to me, Torch had mentioned to me, that there is a... Yep, she did put that in here. So yeah, I mentioned this last week, just as far as putting in the potential tunnel out on this side, because it is an entrance here, as far as you get into the infield from both directions, both this end and the other end. And the fact that he's got that applied to this, that's pretty neat. So we've got this tunnel in the infield that lines up with the, there's still some adjustment that will need to be made to the infield model for sure. With the fact that that will line up right with the outside of the track here. Like so. Right across basically where that Windstar billboard is. Just those little finer details like that, it's pretty cool. So if you were to consider to put a camera, this is what the approach I always take, as far as if you were to put a camera out here, you would have that in the shot. Even if it were to be like right here. Yeah. So I always want to take into consideration being able to put camera shots in different positions here and to see how everything looks, I guess, from that perspective. How do you make sure there's not too much render? How do you mean by that, yeah, so one of the things that we can do, I guess, as far as to ensure or witness or whatever that there is too much lag, you know, when there's lag, frame rate drop, things like that, that gives us a pretty good clue, I guess, as far as to say, especially when it's in a particular area of the track. Even while you're in sandbox here, you can get a sense of if there's going to be too much. So even as I'm panning around or slewing around, this is where I'm in slew mode, I guess, as far as in the sandbox. If we're noticing as far as a frame drop, you can kind of see that to the top right of the screen. How it's kind of fluctuating around there. It's kind of flickering in between 50 to 60 frames. It's kind of hard to read, I guess, as far as it's a little finicky, I guess, as far as the sandbox. That's why you always want to check these things in the sim itself to make sure that it's 100% solid. Because you have a lot more moving pieces, especially when you have other cars, opponent cars, going around the track. Those are all going to add to how much frame, depending on which mod you're using. If you're using the default Papyrus mods or the series that come with the game, in comparison to modded pieces like from Slash and Go, like I've been showcasing here on the streams. That's why you don't want to 100% go by what's going on here in Sandbox. Definitely want to get it in the sim and make sure. But if you're noticing especially in different parts of the track, if it's you're noticing frame rates, that's probably a good indication that there's probably something in that area that might need to be adjusted. So being on the front stretch, turns, and so on. There's a lot of details there, yeah. And see, even with that, I think Torch has done a pretty fantastic job of being able to put as much detail as he has and still keeping it relatively low poly. So just to take in consideration, as far as this did not exist here last time. I had mentioned it, I guess, as far as to possibly put that in here. He's kept it very minimal, I guess, as far as what, to make this minimal amount of detail, I guess, as far as this tunnel. Very little to the texture, probably more than likely, as well as to the model itself. And it doesn't add that much more to it. It does probably add a few more polys to it to get that shape for the tunnel pieces there, but it's not too much to where it's going to probably, drag the whole rendering of the track within the sim down. That's the thing. Now, keeping in mind too, there might be some adjustments that'll need to be made to a lot of these objects already applied. Once the more items that are in the infield apply, we got nothing in the infield so far besides the score tower and then the victory lane that I will finish up here just as far as prior to the end of the stream here. That's the only thing that's relatively that'll be in the infield. So as you add more items, I guess, to populate the infield, if it becomes evident that by adding those items that the frame rates are starting to, drastically go down, we would have to consider possibly reducing the amount of detail and other items that are in the track, or even the items that we're applying to the infield itself. So it's a step process there, I guess, as far as to, put a little bit in at a time, get a little bit of the work done, see where it's at, and adjust from there. So as you do one thing at a time, test it in the sim, just like we have been doing this entire with the progress of the track, and understanding as far as what would need to be reduced in the amount of detail. But like I said, I think so far Torch has done a pretty good job of maintaining that certain amount of detail and not having it kill the amount of frame rates, the overall drivability and raceability of the track so far. And we've thrown some pretty hefty mods, some pretty detailed mods at it, to be the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series mod by Splash and Go, as well as the the updated version of the Papyrus 2003 cars, whatever that we've been showing as of late. So yeah, hopefully that does explain a little bit here, and I will be showing what is all applied to here, everything I've been going over here, to include the victory lane. That's going to be our staple piece, I guess, as far as this session here of Spline Design Studios Saturday, as far as to get the victory lane completed. We kind of ran into some things that we considered, I guess, to be a potential problem, which, again, just everything that I've said so far, we noticed how many more polys were added even through the reconstruction of it, and understanding as far as the fact that we exported that out through 3DS, and the fact that it was adding as many polys as it does. These are things to take in consideration as you're building the model. You want to keep the polys, the poly count, as far as the tries, vertices, and whatever, down as much as possible. Now, it's still relatively a very low poly model. I'm not trying to discount that, but just considering the fact that it's going to probably shift based on that format that we're putting it in, as far as 3DS in this case. You have to take those types of things into consideration as you're building your model. So if it has a certain amount of polys into it, like, I'll just consider this grandstand or this score tower. When you initially check the polys prior to 3DS export so that you can create your pass file, those number of polys and faces and vertices are going to change once you export it out 3DS. So if it has, let's say, 300 polys or whatever in the model prior to export, it's going to add some to it, and in some cases at least double it. So you have to take that. So again, going back to taking models that are already created and running them through 3D SimEd, it's already been, those polys are already duplicated prior to export to 3DS to make a pass file. So if you do it again through 3D SimEd, you're at least doubling on top of that, if not quadrupling. So it's never a good thing, I guess, as far as to use an edited 3D model in the form of 3DO through 3D SimEd and put it back into a track, especially when you're doing that in multiplicity. Considering things like truck haulers and every other model that you have in your track, if you're doing it in that same fashion, run it through 3D SimEd, how many more polys that it's adding to each one independently it's going to drag that track down. 100%. So, anyway, I always feel like I'm kind of beating a dead horse when I say that, but I see it done still to this day, I guess, as far as in that fashion. And it's just killing the overall optimization of the track. Because these things aren't taken into consideration, I guess, when you apply it. Especially when you don't apply it properly. So, where I'm kind of at this point, we're going to get into completing the model for the victory lane. So it might be a little bit of continuation of that. So some of it might be a little bit repetitive from last week, but we need to get it completed. That's just it. I've got it loaded up into our 3ds Max 5 to be able to export the pass file. So I'm going to go over the whole process step by step to kind of update that video that is currently up on the Spline Design Safer Barrier Project YouTube. Very old video. We're talking circa 2014, so the better part of 7 years old at this point. It needs a little bit of TLC, I guess, as far as to it. I think it's kind of spruce it up a little bit. In fact, that video doesn't even have any, that's posted over there, doesn't even have any, no sound. It's all just text explanation, as well as the video showing, I guess, as far as what needs to happen. It's just a little outdated, to say the least. So, okay. Cheers, everybody. Hope you're enjoying your favorite libation, or whatever it is you happen to. I've got adult beverage here, that's for sure. I got me a little bit of Captain Coke. Feel like deserving it. Been one of those types of weeks, you know. So let's switch this back over to geometry view for now, and we're going to keep the track at this point here. We want to get to the point of being able to get our victory lane in there in that 0-0 orientation. So have double checked to make sure in the LiDAR, based on the LiDAR, that the model is already to the proper scale, right? Based on that LiDAR information, the point cloud point data. So that's all good to go. So I'm kind of grazing over that, just glazing over that a little bit, as far as to not, bore everybody to death about that. You've shown that process, I guess, plenty of times. You understand, I guess, as far as what that's all about. So with all that being said, this model that I currently have loaded in our 3ds Max 5 is all set to be able to export it out. I guess as far as that, I'm going to go through all the steps, as I mentioned here. So this segment here is going to cover and just kind of refurbish and also put a little bit of shine, I guess, as far as to the video that's already up on the Safer Barrier Project YouTube that some have used, I guess, as far as to understand, I guess, as far as what this process is all about. Adding transparency to areas such as this fencing and the reflection to such things as the windows. So there's a particular step process that you need to apply to be able to achieve all that into the model, and also be going over the scripting. So with all that said, we're gonna get right into it. So this is how you want to apply. This would be how you want to apply your reflection in the form of a mask, which is a separate texture from the primary texture, and also to have your transparency in such areas as your fencing. So in 3ds Max, and you'll have this all previously mapped properly, because as far as based on your primary texture, right? So in your mapping, to get this exported out properly, you want to have your primary texture on your main diffuse. You can pick any sphere within the material editor, that's fine. Make sure that's applied, and if you do have the transparency, as we do in our fencing here, you want to make sure that texture, that main texture that you're applying, has the alpha channel. If you don't have this option here, I guess, as far as the image alpha, then you need to fix the texture so that you do. And just to kind of summarize, I guess, as far as how you do that, you want to apply you can easily save your texture that you've created in your paint program of choice as a TGA within your WinMap 2. Spit that out as a TGA, and it'll already have that option in there for, in fact, I'll go ahead and navigate to this real quickly. So if we go to our model, in fact, I can go here. Got that one right here. Just to kind of glaze over this really quickly. Our victory lane. So this texture here that we've got has already been applied as a TGA with the alpha channel. You'll have this item here. So when you open up and save your image, even initially as a bitmap from your favorite paint program of choice, load that bitmap or PNG into, primarily bitmap works better, into WinMip 2, choose the TGA option, and then if this isn't already selected for your invisible color, you want to make sure you do your left shift and choose that color and make sure that this swath here is the magenta, or the pink as we know it, and then save your TGA, and that should ensure you, I guess, as far as the WinMip 2 will automatically apply that as an alpha channel, that area of the texture. Once you apply it to your model in here, it'll give you this option. Very critical that you have this option to your texture, I guess, as far as to have that transparency in the areas of your model. Otherwise, it will not have that. Okay, so that's for your primary texture. Moving on to your masked area, I guess, as far as the area that'll have the reflection, that'll involve basically using your primary texture to mask out, hence the term, I guess, as far as the mask for it there, where that's going to be. And just to kind of show how that works, again really quickly, we're going to load up, let's do it this way. So if we load up our main texture here, I'll open this up with my favorite paint program of choice as far as Paint Shop Pro. Okay, so you got your main texture here as far as your primary texture. You'll open up, you'll create your oops, I gotta navigate over to that. You'll navigate, you will, yeah, sure. I'm kind of stepping on myself. Create modeling, there we go. So I got all my Texas items nice and located here. The way you would create this is in the same, relatively in the same conform of your primary texture. If you had this in a form of a layer, you could basically backfill in a layer, just as far as into here. And I'm just going to go over this really quickly here. Let's promote this to a layer first. Let's go through the motions here. So you would have your primary texture. You create another layer. This is the way to do it in Paint Shop Pro, at least anyway. Okay, so we got another layer here. I'm going to choose black, true black, and fill that in. Now we have that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off. So it's still there. I just got it turned off. Now what I can do is in these areas, while that's turned off, I can choose which areas to cut out that I want to actually include. Now if I wanted to do each window independently, I could do that too, just for the sake of demonstration here. I'm going to go just like this, and that layer that I just created with, that's all black, true black, keeping in mind that as anything that's true black is what's going to be masked. Anything that's in the form of a gray shading, as far as next to white, is going to have the gloss. It's going to give you that shading. I got feathering on here. I got to turn that off. Don't want that in there. I mean, if you wanted a feather on it, you could do that, but for this case, we do not. Alright, so we're going to chunk that out there. So this is just a really crude example of the heck. Should delete that out. There we go. I think that should work. So it's still turned off. So if we go like this, so now you have that section. I know it's very crude, but it gives you an idea, I guess, as far as how you want to apply that. Now in this area, if we wanted this area to be shiny, as far as to have some level of gloss to it, this one has quite a bit of shadow, or not shadow, but glossiness to it. So from white, as far as pure white, is going to give you the most amount of gloss. So anything less than that is going to give you a more opaque type of glossiness. So that's why this is kind of like somewhere in the middle. So just for demonstration purposes, I'll use this as an example. So in that same layer, I'm going to fill that in there, so that's going to be that level, that certain level of glossiness to it. Like I said, if I was to use more white, it's going to be like really milky, as far as like it's going to be pretty clouded. So you don't probably want to use a pure white as far as that, but that gives you an idea, I guess, as far as on a scale from white to like a gray, is about where you want it. So just for the sake of that, but you would use your primary texture, I guess, to be able to create that mask, and then save that as a separate texture. In this case, it's Victory Lane _ mask. So that's two separate textures that you'll have, and that's what we have in our 3ds Max. So we're applying that as a specular. Okay, so that's already in here, I guess, as a specular. Right, and then your last texture that you will apply, and I kind of went over this last week as far as in the form of a DDS. You can take any environment map from a bitmap, just export that via a WinMap 2. Take any environment map from any text, any track, any default track, for example, and spit that out as a bitmap. Open that up in WinMap 2, and then from your favorite program of choice, be it whatever has a DDS plugin, save that as a DDS in the form of DTX5. You want to have an alpha channel in it. So as long as that DDS file for the environment map has a alpha channel in it, you should be good to go. And you want to apply that through your mappings in your map editor, or your map material editor, as a bump map. So you check the bump map and apply that DDS environment. It can be named whatever you want. I just left it as environment, based on the environment map, so I know about what I used, I guess, as far as from that. It doesn't need to be track specific or anything like that. Just as long as it's as far as the way the game engine works, it needs to have an environment map applied to it with parameters to that DDS, as far as to understand that there is reflection in there. And it'll make more sense as far as when we apply that parameter to the model, when we export out via script through Make 3DO. When we apply that parameter for -E, that's where it'll understand as far as like, okay, there's an environment map to this, so I need to make sure that I apply that. That'll make sense once we get to that point. Just so you know, that's how that basically goes. There's Torch coming on in there. How we doing there, Torch? Get himself a shot. We're just kind of getting into the thick of it here, Torch. You and Torch figured out the stuff from last week from that? Yes, we did. As far as lots of things. Captain and Coke, you're rocking some, what kind of tea? I don't know what kind of tea that is. What kind of tea is that? Is that some kind of special tea? Nice, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've been sitting here flapping my gums here, but yeah, just going over some of the things that'll need to be applied to the texturings prior to pass export, at least anyway, from 3ds Max 5. So, just to summarize, now that I've gone over as far as how to apply what is needed, and as far as what the parameters of those individual textures need to be, this is where we're at. So the primary, the parent or primary diffuse colors texture is going to be your primary texture. In this case, it's going to be, go back this way, turn this layer off. So it's going to be this one. That's going to be your primary texture. And then you'll have your texture for your specular, which is going to be your mask. That's going to be a separate texture. Okay, and then you're also going to have your environment map, and this can be any environment map MIP that's available in any track. Spit that out as a bitmap, convert that to DDS with an alpha channel. That's very critical. Like I said, that the DDS have the alpha channel, and in most cases it's going to be the DTX5 option. It'll give you that option through the DDS plugin of your paint program of choice. So these are the three layers you're gonna. Now, I've already got the texture, primary texture applied. When you bring your primary texture in, physically apply that to your model to make sure that it's physically applied, and you can see that in the viewport. That's the first critical step. And then the specular and the bump map, you just need to make sure they're populated into here. So you can either add your specular through the map section here or up here, and then go down to here, make sure you check the bump, and then bring in that environment map in the form of DDS with the alpha channel that's already been previously created, right? So make sure all that's applied. Once that's applied, you do not, once you get the specular and the environment map applied, you do not need to manually apply that to there. Just the primary texture will work, so that once you export it out via pass file, it'll know what the texture coordinates are as far as all the UV mapping. Definitely, if you try to apply everything with everything applied in here, it's not going to give you a very good result as far as like that. You only want that primary texture physically applied first, so that's the only part of this process here that you need to physically apply the texture is that primary texture, which is the main diffuse. Just to make that abundantly clear. So once all that's applied, you've got the name of your... Oops, So once the name of your model is what you want it to be, as far as prior to export, all your textures are applied. One final thing you want to adjust here is the specular levels. Now you can play around with these as much as you choose. What we have found, I guess, to be the most pleasing, you know, as far as aesthetically pleasing, is a level of 5 on the specular and a level of 24-25 on the glossiness. And you can feel free, like I said, as far as to adjust those as you see, you know, as far as what type of it's either 5 and 24 or 25, somewhere in that range. So it should look something like this. What that's going to do is take that environment map that you've applied to it. Again, once it pass exports, it's going to apply that to that particular level. And depending on if that's what you're looking for, as far as you can change that through how much pure white that you're applying to the texture itself, or adjust it from here within 3ds Max to get you that proper amount of glossiness that you want to your piece. So whether it's to a window or just to have a little bit of sheen, like a lacquer type of look to it, whatever type of look you're going for, you can feel free to play around with this. No, for windows, this is about the best that we've come to find, I guess, as far as the best setting, I guess, for that, if that makes sense. So that's everything that you'll need at this point, as far as once all this is set, this is the way it is. You got your 3 textures as far as that, and your settings, I guess, for your specular and your glossiness. You got the name of your model as far as what you want it to be. Go ahead and export this out as a pass file, and we're going to go ahead and put this. We're going to put this right into our gifting a subscription. Who did you gift to Jungle? Is that, did I get that right? Did I get that right? Torch is hopefully I got that right. Correct me if I'm wrong, Torch, if I'm reading that right. So you've got gifted sub over to Jungle? Did I say that right? I got 2 things in here, so yeah, definitely feel free to keep me honest on that. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and export that. Wow, wasn't expecting that. That came out of nowhere. Yeah, so if you Peach, you just gifted. There you go. Yeah. So is Jungle in here? Crazy. Yeah, so if you just Jungle, if you're out there, because if you might be lurking. Jungle might be lurking, so it's like if you do acknowledge, I guess, as far as that goes. Appreciate that, Torch. Wow, kind of caught me off guard there. It's like, whoa. I might have to back up here a little bit here, I guess, as far as just to go over that. Yeah, it was totally, that caught me by surprise a little bit. Appreciate that there, Torch. Taking advantage, I guess, of September. We got no, we got a little bit more time. We got a little bit of next week yet, I guess, as far as all the way to the 30th of September. We're celebrating September here on Twitch, so you can get a little 20% off. 20% off. Yeah. The Torch is kind of taking advantage of that a little bit. I appreciate that again, Torch, very much. Wow, I need to back up here a little bit. That totally threw me off guard. I need to collect myself here a little bit. Appreciate that. Yeah, and I'm almost willing to bet, I guess, I'm thinking Jungle's probably definitely lurking. Lurkers are always very, very much welcome here for sure. Yep. So I'm just verifying, I guess, on my end to make sure. I know the alerts and such like that have been a little bit crazy, I guess, at times. So I just definitely want to make sure it wasn't anything that was erroneous. I guess is the word I think of there. All right, we're gonna go into the. I think at this point here, what I'll do is I'm just gonna go over the really quick explanation, I guess, as far as everything that we've done here, just so I can highlight this area. Right? Definitely. Definitely toasty. maybe a little bit. Torch is like, beats me. I get a kick out of that one. Torch, I have to giggle a little bit about that. He's like, beats me. I just get. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so this is gonna be the quick explanation here. Because like I said, I want to be able to highlight this area. As far as like that, everything that I've gone over there is just more or less summary anyway. So for anybody that doesn't know, hopefully that is still useful. Hopefully without any interruptions this time, right? Okay. Again, I don't want to discount against it all the fact that I just thought that was like, whoa, where did that come from? Wasn't expecting that. I totally caught me off guard for sure. Torch giving him another shot, I guess, on that note. Another 48 units. That's too, the slots aren't working out too well, though, for anybody so far. That's crazy. Bot being a little stingy, I guess, on the slots there so far. Alright, so here's the quick explanation here. So just to kind of re-summarize. To add both transparency to your model as well as reflection, you will need to have primary texture applied with all the appropriate, however you want that painted. This still is going to need to be updated for sure. You need your specular. That's going to include, I guess, as far as warrior masking for whatever it is that you want to have the gloss, which is from any level of gray to white, which you probably don't really want to have white. That's going to give you an extreme amount of glossiness, just to be aware of that. And then also your environment map, as far as in the form of a DDS, primarily with an alpha channel. Now, it's not critical, that's probably another point I should probably make, it's not critical that you need to apply this as far as to the DDS. As long as it's in the DDS with the DXT5 in the form of an alpha channel to it, that's more than fine. It's not critical, I guess, to have the alpha channel applied to the environment DDS. Now, I've named it environment just to kind of remind me, I guess, as far as that it's using any environment map that comes from any one of the default tracks, for example, to create that. It needs that as far as the game mechanics to understand to have environment MIP, in this case, as far as the game is concerned, the sim is concerned, to have that applied and to apply a specular map. So that's the only reason why I've kept it that name. So it is somewhat a little bit critical, I guess, to have it that name, as far as because your MIP that you apply to that, as far as the game mechanics, needs to read it in that fashion, as far as having it to that. So that's probably a fair mention. So as long as you've got all of those textures applied with those particular parameters, and probably another critical point is to make that in your primary texture, if you got the transparency in the model, you need to make sure that the texture does have, in comparison to the environment map, does have the image alpha to it. If it does not, then you need to make sure, I guess, the texture is saved with that image alpha to it. And like I've already explained, you can create that image from a base BMP, a bitmap, as far as bringing it in movement to save it as a TGA, right? With this swath, as far as what area you want to have transparency. It's very critical to have that if you want the transparency in the model at all, anywhere in the texture. Doesn't matter what area it happens to be. So that's critical, right? So as long as all those parameters are the textures and you have this hierarchy for the texturing in here, the other critical piece is you need to have your primary texture applied to the model prior to pass export. From there, you can add your specular. You can add your specular and your environment map without physically applying those beyond, I guess, as far as already doing the primary texture, right? So just make that abundantly clear just as far as how that goes. You do not want to apply any of the textures once you've got the reflection map and the environment map, as far as in the form of your bump map, directly to the model. It'll give you not very good results, right? So just a little bit of summary there. So as long as you've got all that with the proper parameters in the texture, the last thing to do next to naming your model that you want it to be, set your specular and glossiness level, and this is what I've mentioned, I guess, as far as that works for such things as windows, having a specular level of 5 and a specular level or glossiness level is 24. You can feel free, I guess, to play around with that at your leisure to make sure that you're getting the result that you want. But these are what has worked in the past, I guess, as far as to get that proper amount of glossiness to that. You can also change the level of gray that's in your mask texture for your gloss, as far as your specular. You can add more or reduce it as you so see fit. That will also affect as far as how much gloss is applied to the model. So either from in here in max as far as your specular and gloss settings, or through the texture itself, or a combination of any combination of those two. Once those are all set, you're pretty much good to go, I guess, as far as to be able to export this as a pass file. So that's where we're at right now. We're going to go ahead and export this out. All right. So I'm going to navigate this over to our 3D modeling deal here. We got our own, and we do not have a pass file as of yet, but I'm going to go ahead and save this as Victory Lane. And what we want to make sure, so we already can get an idea of how we're saving our items here, as far as they have the same naming conventions, I guess, for all the different pieces. So from 3DS to TGA and so on. The only thing different here is I have to make sure that this is considering that you already got the plugin applied to 3ds Max. Getting to this point, there's video on that explains, I guess, as far as how to get that set up. And so this is definitely already assuming that you've already installed your pass file, right? So there we go. So name it, choose the pass extension here as far as for that pass export, and save it. And then I will confirm whatever that did save, which it did. Here's our pass file. Now this is going to be used in as a matter of creating our script, which is going to be the next step. So we've done everything, I guess, as far as to get our pass file exported, right? So we're all good to go on that. From here, we can start construction of our PSG, which is our script that we'll need to be able to actually create the actual 3DO model, running that through Make 3DO. So that's the next step. So we're going to open up the... I'm going to go ahead and do this right away, so this I don't forget. I don't want to forget, so let's see if I can... Feel free for anybody else that's in the chat. Feel free to use that same command. If there's something, any part, I guess, of the stream that does pose any interest to you, or if you feel that it's something that you would like to see in a short, you know, as far as a timestamp on that, that's what that clip function, clip command in the chat. Like I said, anybody can use that. It eliminates, as far as the necessity to have to navigate away from the stream, I guess, to create a clip, you know, through Twitch clips, if you want to do it that way. That way you don't miss anything, for example. So it's like I said, there for anybody to use. It's not only for my purposes. So feel free to use it, I guess, as far as you find anything that's either funny, useful, important to use, because that gives me some idea, I guess, as far as what I would need to look at as far as in the VOD to create a clip or short or what have you. So yeah, I invite anybody, I guess, to use that. All right, I'm gonna skip over this one here. Actually, hold on a second, and skip over that one too. Let's go to this one. There we go. Okay, so now we're at the point where we're basically constructing our script. So what we do want to have in here, as far as to have different state functions in here. So primarily what we'll need for this victory lane is probably a population switch. So we don't really need to have a weekend switch. We don't. Now, if we wanted to apply different textures, I guess as far as to show different type of signage to it, we could probably take the approach of adding a weekend switch. I don't really see any need, I guess, as far as to apply a weekend switch. I guess as far as in that type of for this type of reason. So I'll probably take out the weekend switch state. But I've got everything in here, all the different pieces. If you did want to apply that a weekend state switch, I guess, to it. Probably something else that comes in mind when you're applying a weekend state switch is for like something like stands. So like the approach that Torch is taking is with the 3D crowds. You'd want a weekend state switch in there, I guess, as far as to have crowds in the stands as opposed to not during different sessions. So that kind of a better example, I guess, as far as we don't really need or have a necessity, I guess, to have that in our victory lane model, at least at this point. So I'll probably be leaving that out there. So I'll need to construct the script here, I guess, as far as based on that. We will want to keep the population switch. And the population switch, what that is via depress the O key in the sim itself will allow to turn items on or off by depress of that. So that's what the population switch will do. So if you don't want to have a lot of distraction as you're driving, if you're one of those types of drivers that wants to be able to turn items off because they distract, I guess, as far as you're driving, or just to kind of minimize, I guess, as far as the overall live read of the track, that's what's already built into the game, is to depress that O key. Hence that little bit of a note here, I guess, as far as by depress of the O key in the game. So, silly question. Was a weekend switch? That's not a silly question. That's a very good question. So I tried to explain, I guess, a little bit. So what the weekend state switch, and I have it. These are containers, right? So these here, you can name these whatever you want. I just try to name the containers, I guess, as far as to make sense. Anything in capital letters is what the actual function is, right? So that function, as far as like what the when you run the script through Make 3DO, understand as far as, okay, I need to do a particular function, I guess, to this. So I need to apply this state switch, or I need to group this together, whatever the case may be. So what a weekend state switch does, and I have this little note here, a value of 0 means that's during testing. So anything that has that value, I guess, as far as the 0 value, I guess, applied to the weekend state switch, that means it will not show during testing. Okay, if it's a 1, it will show during warm-up, practice, qualify. I might have said that wrong. I had to step back a little bit. So 0 means it will only show during testing. 1 will mean it will show only during warm-up. So any combination of that. So if you want to show every session, for example, then you would want to put right. So this is how this works. So variable weekend. So I'd want this to be 0. Which model is using? So we want the min. In this case, we don't want it to show. So it's showing empty mesh. So during testing, it's not going to show. In this case here, this is why I don't want that, because I want it to be there all the time, right? A 1 is going to be also minimum. This is the way the script is designed initially here, just to kind of clarify. So model min, which is this container, means there's going to be no mesh. That means it's going to be empty. There's going to be nothing showing. So that's both in testing and in qualifying, race session, whatever. So that's the value of 1, as that explains. So the only time this model shows, which is this container, is the actual pass file in this case that we've already created. Now I'm going to be renaming these items here just in a moment, but just to kind of give you an idea. So during race, this model will actually show. So if that's what we want to have, as far as like that, then this would be the proper structure we would want to have. But we want the structure for the victory lane to show all the time, and not disappear or be non-present, I guess, as far as in any other session. So we'll probably be disregarding the weekend state switch. But also, as I explained too, the way we've shown, I can kind of demonstrate this here real quick too. A good example of a weekend state switch would be for like these grandstands. Wow, holy crap. That's the maximum one there too. Maximum one there. Yeehaw. Yeah, he definitely deserves, I guess, definitely deserve to play that one. GG's there, Torch. And that's the, yeah, that's definitely the maximum. So how many did you have to play, I guess, to be able to get that? I had to count back. How many plays did you have to do, I guess, as far as to get that? That's always the, I'm sure it was probably more than 10 times. Or it was less than 10 times, I should say. It is 10 units of fluid per play. Yeah, I bet you Yasso was just dying to be able to use that one. I know she noticed that. Yasso noticed that, I guess, as far as from, I think that was during Wreckfest. Was it Wreckfest or was it trucking? I forget. Like, ooh, that's a new one. You've just been dying to be able to play that one, haven't you? I'm sure. But kind of get into the explanation, I guess, as far as how weekend state switches work here. Was it Wreckfest? Okay. Yeah. So I keep those up and available, I guess, as far as for all sessions on the channel here for sure. But so to explain as far as weekend state switch a little bit more thoroughly, as far as what I've already gone over. So let's just assume or whatever that this setup here for the script here is going to be used for this. No, Torch has already gone through the motion, I guess, to get this applied to it, right? So this is during a race. We've got them physically showing. That's the value of 2. Okay, so just to kind of show how this goes, we can adjust these things here through the state variable. So we're going to put it on 0, which is testing. Okay, again, this is going back to what I've already explained to understand, I guess, as far as how these works. The weekend state switch of 0, right, is nothing should show, right? So if we turn that state switch on here, we can check this parameter out in here. There's nothing there, right? So for 1, that is during testing, qualifying, and so on. That's during that warm-up, practice qual, during that session in the game. So if we've got that applied to it there, because to not show, I guess doing that again, you have to, all depending on the container that you're using, is for what the model showing in those sessions or not. This is all through this one line, right? So your container, your state switch variable weekend, and then 0, what do you want to show? 1, what do you want to show? And 2, what do you want to show? Show or not show, I should say. All right, so on a 1, that's showing testing. So for weekend 1, which, like I said, is for practice qual, warm up, happy hour, all that good stuff. So if we look at that, it probably still doesn't show, right? So there's no people, I guess, to show during that session or any of those sessions. Okay. Now you can, we've done this before, you know, Torch has as well as we have, to have, say, like half populated crowds during that session. Whether Torch will take that approach or not, that's totally up to him. But that's another example as far as how you can apply a different model or different level of the model in that session, right? That's how you can control these different sessions as far as what shows, right? So we don't have it that way here, I guess, as of current, but that is a possibility. So in that session, this is what doesn't show in this case. So if we go to 2, that's going to be full race. Now we should have the full model of that. So during a race, that entire model shows. That's somewhat of a really short explanation, I guess, as far as how those weekend state switches. Population switches work basically just 1 of 2 ways. So depress of the oak. It does have 3 states, I guess, to the population switch as well. So you can have all, some, or minimum, I think is what it is. And I'll have to go back to the script here. That's why it's got it. So for the population switch, which is what we're going to focus on with applying to this victory lane, in this case here, no, I don't have it fully modeled, but basically what it is, there's 3 states to that too. So that's why you've got, just like the weekend switch, you do have 3 states as far as 0, 1, and 2. You do have a 0, 1, and 2 on the population switches too. Primarily, you only use, for the most part, you're only going to probably use the 2 of them. So you either want it to show or you don't. That's usually the approach that we've been taking, I guess, with the population switch. But there is at least that one other level if you want a portion. You want a portion of it. Torch gets another one right off the bat. Dang, that's some relatively short play, I guess, to get, and that's one of the minimal jackpots there. That's 300 units of fluid. So Torch is already 1,300 to the good on the units of fluid there. For anybody, you can definitely feel free, I guess, to check your units of fluids with exclamation point fluids in the chat. That goes for anybody. To see if your units of fluid are sufficient. If they're not, you can play those mini chat games, I guess, to get those supplemented. And just to kind of also reiterate too, for anybody that is in the chat while the stream is live, you are earning yourself units of fluids even while the stream is live. So regardless of if you do play the mini chat games or not, you are earning yourself those valuable. Granted, you're earning them at a different rate than if you are a sub. Just kind of throwing that out there too. We still got about a week left, a little bit more than a week left, I guess, as far as for September here on Twitch. So if you want to take advantage of that 20% off, I guess on the sub, feel free to do so. That's to your advantage, I guess, as far as you get a whole another month, I guess, as far as being able to get at a discount and earn yourself those units of fluids much quicker at double the rate, I guess, as far as from non-subs. So that's just a little fair mention. And we use those units of fluids, I guess, as far as for special events on the channel, such as like giveaways. I'm still keeping in I still have it penned in at this point, I guess, as far as to do probably like a double Twitch anniversary, I guess, as far as like, since we did not get a chance with the PC going kaput for the Twitch anniversary, the 3rd year Twitch anniversary, I guess, as far as for that, we weren't able to conduct that, unfortunately, because of the PC taking a dump. So I got kind of a double Twitch anniversary, I guess, to kind of make up for potentially by next April. It'll be the 4th year as far as being a Twitch affiliate, so probably pretty fantastic. So during events like those, as well as any other events, you know, as far as for Wreckfest, any of the other days that I do stream, sometimes I do have that for meeting follower goals, for meeting sub goals, things like that. I do like to have small little giveaways, so you are going to need those units of fluid, those very valuable units of fluid, I guess, to be able to participate in those events. So yeah, just a little bit of an explanation, I guess, as far as all those work anyway. Bot loves you. Yeah, so far. Yeah, no kidding. GG's on out. I got a feeling, though, for anybody else that might want to play the jackpot at this point, that he's going to be very stingy. Might have to prove him wrong. You have to set him straight, right? Okay. Now I kind of lost my train of thought. So hopefully that's a little bit more of an explanation. And as I do this one, do this script, I guess, for this victory lane, it'll kind of make a little bit more sense. So I am going to adjust some lines in here. This is our sample model script that we've got, and it's totally available on the Spline Design Studios website. We have one for a multi-pass. It kind of sounds like that movie Fifth Element when I say that. Multi-pass. So pass files, we understand, as far as is your model that you export out through 3ds Max. So if you have a model that is in several pieces in the form of several pass files, there's a script that you'll need that goes through and outlines it. It gives you the initial framework, I guess, as far as how that needs to be designed to be able to combine those all together into one 3DO. So there's that one, as well as the simple, which is the one I've got open here currently. And the simple one is basically just one pass file that has at least one or more of these weekend state switch and or population switch, and you can adjust it from that as you see fit. And that's what I'm gonna do now. So anything that was with the hashtag or the pound sign are just comment lines, right? Which they don't serve anything. Anything that does not have that is going to be some type of function with a container. In this case, this one outlines, I guess, as far as loading an empty mesh, which we'll probably use at least in the population switch, but we won't necessarily use it for weekend switch. So I'm going to take that out right away. I've already said that a couple times. We're going to take this portion out for the weekend switch because we don't need this in this model. In fact, I'm going to take all this here for the comments and all that stuff for it as well. And we're just going to close this up a little bit. The amount of spaces that you have, and what you don't want to do with the scripting is do anything like this where you leave an empty line. If you're going to leave an empty line, make sure you put a pound sign or hash mark That's probably a fair mention as far as when you're constructing these scripts. When you run it through Make3DO, it gets really angry as far as when you leave empty spaces with nothing going on in it. So either comment it or just add a hash mark if you want to leave a space so that it doesn't yell at you, I guess, as far as when you run the script through the Make3DO. Just a little fair mention, FYI. Okay, so we're gonna rename this here. This is gonna be, what do we want to name this here? We want to do Victory Lane. And this is not critical, it's just more or less for reference. It's all it's for. Victory Lane model for Victory Lane for Texas. We'll just put Texas TE 2020. Is that what we got this name? Texas 2020 TE. That's what we'll do. Okay. And like I said, that's more or less just for reference so that you know what the script belonged to. Okay. And then you can feel free to put your name in there if you want to do that. Definitely going to put the date in here too, even though it says 2020. What is today? Today is the 20th. Man, this month is going by. Like I said, you only got a few more days. You got maybe a little bit less than a week. I got up to the 30th of 5 more days. So I do that quick math. To benefit, I guess, from September here in Twitch. Yeah, I definitely deserve this drink, right? Drink if you got it. Cheers, everybody. All right, so let's do 9. Whoops. No, 8. 9, 25, 21. Oh, what the heck? What did I do? 9, 25, 21. So that we want to put the date on this one here, and you know, that kind of gives us some idea as far as where we're at here, because as far as it gives it just, like I said, for reference here, as far as we're working on Texas 2020, we are in September 21. This track definitely did get started on the 1st of last year, if I'm so like November. Just Torch, you can feel free. I'm a little bit behind because I had that hiatus there, I guess, as far as being out of commission there, I guess, as far as for the better part of 4 or 5 months. So it's like, so what I'm gonna do for this one here, we want to use model min. So what you name this container is not really critical. So you can name these containers whatever you want. I can keep it as model min with no problem. It's not, like I said, it's not critical what you name the containers. What is critical is the function. And that's in these capital letters here. This is what Make3DO will read as far as what it understands as far as what it needs to do with this particular container. Right? Okay, so in this case, we're going to leave it model min. It's going to show it empty mesh. Model is going to be our pass file, which in this case, we want to take what our actual pass file is named. I'm going to go back here. Our pass file is actually this. I'm going to grab the properties for that. And I can copy that whole thing if I wanted to. We already got pass in there, so I'll just copy the name of that and apply that to our script. So whether or not I copy that whole thing or not, I already had pass in here, so we're good. So that's going to be the name of our pass file. Okay, and we're going to keep that container named model, right? And this I don't need. This is all based on the weekend switch. We don't need this. So we're going to take that out, that little comment out. Now we're getting into population switch, which is what we want to focus on next, for this model at least anyway. Alright. So here's the population switch. Population switch, we're going to, and again, it kind of keeping the name of the container, I guess, as far as to make sense as far as what we got going on with it. In this case, it is a population switch. Again, you can name these containers whatever you want. These aren't critical, I guess, as far as the container. Again, what is critical is the actual function. In this case, it's a state switch variable, and it involves population. This part right here is definitely critical as far as to get this correct. And there's a slew of different functions that you can apply to these different types of scripts. We're just using the more common ones that are. So for different types of scripting that you're applying for either car mods or objects like we're creating here, there's a slew of them. There's a whole list of them, and somewhere I had them somewhere But this is why I've created these. We have taken the initiative, I guess, to create these sample scripts, right? So that you have these at the more commonly used ones, I guess, at your disposal. So for this population switch, what we want to do is we want on 0, and in this case it's going to be the way the population switch for 0, we don't want anything to show. 1, we want the model to show, right? Just to kind of give it straight. Now there is that one other level if you want it to show during sum. There's an option in the sim itself for sum. If you want it to show there, then do that. But you always want to make sure that your population switch, regardless if you use that or not, for the sum, you always want to end this with 3. That is the way that population switch works. So there is the 3, just like the weekend switch, there's the 3 states of that. So either none at all, it does show as far as for all, or some, right? So in this case here, since we did get rid of the weekend switch container, we've got to use this model container, because we're not using the weekend switch, because we're not changing the state of the model, I guess, as far as in the weekend state switch. So because of the way this was initially designed, we need to replace this to only show our actual mesh, which is in this pass file. So that's based on this container. Okay, so we're going to put this to show that spot. So what this is going to do, when we press, every time we press the OK, it's either going to turn on or turn off, just like a switch, a light switch, as far as to be on or off, like a light bulb, or however you want to explain it. That's basically the way this is constructed. That's all that is going to do for this particular model. So for the output, again, this is just a little bit of a remark. Output the 3DO. This is our function, the output, and what we want to output is our population switch. So this is all part of the flow, and we've got this. There's a short little clip on the YouTube channel, on my current YouTube, the Rock Nation YouTube channel. Feel free to check that out as far as the Enter 2003 clips. This all coincides with the flow of the script, so it's like you want to use what you've already established previously, as far as so from you already established it previously, and then you use it, you know, from a top-down type of perspective here. So whatever you do here, we're using, like, say for example, our model min, we're using that model min in this line from top to bottom. So it's like you want to define as far as like what it is that you want these containers to do, and then how do you apply that, I guess, as far as in another container. So that's just a really quick once over, I guess, as far as how that to describe the flow of that. So the way the script gets read by Make 3DO is from top to bottom, right? So what it reads initially here, what it's going to look for, I guess, as far as for like model min, empty mesh, is like it's going to look for that to be used somewhere. So in this case, further down the line as it reads it from top to bottom. So this is where we've used that. So we've established population switch, and we also want to use it in our output as far as to, and this is where we want to name our model what we want our model to be. So the fact that when we bring our model out in 3ds and it wants to rename that model, as far as from 3ds, for example, because of the limitation to 8, this is where we can change that to name it beyond 8 characters if we want. In this case, it's going to be Victory Lane. We want this named. Yeah, so we want this to be named Victory Lane, or whatever we want it to be named. In this case, we want to keep it Victory Lane. I'm just going to copy this here. This is what we want to name our actual 3DO that we want it to output. And again, it's not critical. You can name it whatever you want. It's just by being able to script it, you're able to go beyond what 3ds, even the past, for example, I guess, as far as allows you to, being limited, I guess, to the 8 characters. So it's kind of an advantage, I guess, in that case. So the fact that this is definitely over 8 characters, if that's what we want to name it, that's what I'm going with here, just to kind of keep everything somewhat consistent. And I've mentioned this before, I guess, as far as the consistency that you have in the model name, as far as the 3DO and your textures, is so that everything is kind of all together and it's not kind of all spaced out. You can feel free, I guess, to apply whatever names that you want to these things as you're creating them. It's just, to me, personally, it makes sense, I guess, to keep the names of the model itself as far as the shape descriptor named the same as the model and in comparison, I guess, to the texture. It just makes sense as far as if you're needing to adjust things, whatever, as far as define them within your track edit folder, so they're not all spread out. I guess that's the way I can describe that. And to me, it just makes more sense to do that. But you can feel free, I guess, as far as to name these things however you choose. Also, I guess, to kind of keep things generalized. So we're not naming this specifically as like Time Warner Victory Lane or something like that. And I've stressed, I guess, my reasons, I guess, for not doing that, I guess, in that regard. So I'll leave it at that. So Torch is probably out there, blah, 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 blah. I've already heard all this. I don't need to. Anywho, so this is what we're going with here. So this is basically all we're going to need, I guess, for the structure of the script for this particular model. This is what we didn't get a chance to go over with last stream here. So I think this is pretty good. Yeah, this will work out. So for our purposes, I guess, of this model, this is all we need to have to be able to run this through script. So we're going ahead and save this, and I've got this extension. For most, you may not have the PSG extension registered to your system. There are procedures, I guess, to follow, I guess, to be able to make that happen. You can have, just as I've got here, you can have the PSG extension, I guess, you can open it with Notepad, regular Notepad, but also you can have, if you've got Notepad++, or even such other programs like Sublime, you can have it linked to that too, to open by default, I guess, by those, so you can just double click on it as opposed to just open with. You can feel free to do that to make it a little bit easier, I guess, to get in and out of and editing these scripts as you see fit. We'll leave that up to you, the end user, I guess, as far as to take those particular steps. But yeah, for purposes here, whatever, I have the PSG script to be open automatically by default through the default Windows Notepad. So you can just use that. But they can also be able to go ahead and save this. I do have my Notepad++, for example, and I can open that with that too. And it'll open up the same way. I do like, depending on how much that you've got going on with your script, you might want to get to a particular line. Also, if Make3DO does give you an error and it says it's on a particular line, opening it up in Notepad++ will give you programs like the Notepad++. Sublime will also do the same thing, as well as any other, more robust text editor. This is sometimes can be more helpful, I guess, to have the line numbers and not have to count those manually, I guess, as far as in other text programs like Notepad, just straight up Notepad. So anyway, just to show you, I guess it will open up in Notepad as well. Notepad++, I should say. Okay, so we've got this. Now it's a matter of bringing all the files that we need over to Make3DO. So in this case, we do need this, and I should probably make a point that it's not critical what you name your script. In this case, I kind of shortened it up here so that it wasn't quite as long, because you will have to type these things out into the command prompt for Make3DO. So even if I just did this as VL, if I just did it as VL, maybe TXVL and make it really short, sometimes that'll help as far as, needing to type that in there initially, not, kind of save some keystrokes, but it's not, just to kind of make the point that it's not critical what you name the script. You can name it whatever you want, just as long as you're pointing to that in the Make3DO program so that it can run the script and otherwise produce your 3DO. I'm going to go with this name for my purposes, so I need this, the related pass file, and all the textures in this case. Now if you want to put the MIPS in there, I also need the environment DDS. You can put the MIPS in there if you want to put the MIPS into the Make3DO at this point too. You can feel free to do that if you do want to open it through the View 3D, which is also another command prompt program. That's by through the sandbox utilities. You can do that. I'll probably just take the approach of running that through 3D SimEd, just to kind of make sure that the object is going to load once it does spit it out, and then we'll get it into sandbox. That's going to be the other steps we're going to take here. So with all these items that we do need primarily here selected, I'm going to copy those over to our Make3DO directory. In this case, I've already got it pre-populated here. And I do tend to put the Make 3DO program, because be it with Sandbox and Make 3DO, it is a program, right? So I tend to put those in my program files. You might have it in a different location if you decide to do these types of things to make it a little bit more accessible. That's your choice. Totally not critical as far as where you run that from. So with everything that we need in here, I'm leaving out the MIPS at this point, at least for now. We're going to create the necessary MIPS that we need later. I will still be able to open this model once it does spit it out via our script through 3D SimMap. So that's the approach that I'm gonna take with this, at least anyway. Okay, so I already have, at least I did, a command prompt up here to the location of our Make 3DO program. I've already shown that previously as far as how to get that. If you're familiar, just as far as being able to get up the command prompt, that is in your start menu program. Just search for command prompt and bring that up there. Get to the location of where your Make 3DO is, as well as all the files related, particularly your script, which we're already there. So we're going to go ahead and, from this point, we can call up the Make 3DO program, which is Make 3DO. A lot of this is all summary for most of us, so it's like if there is anything at any point that is not making sense to you, feel free to ask. So Make 3DO, we're calling up the actual utility, which is right here. Now we need to tell it what we want it to do. So in this case, we want to run a script, which is in this case is -s. Okay, so we're going to do -s parameter for script, -p if you're just running the raw pass, and then the name of the script itself, which in this case is viclane.psg. All one word, .psg. And it, uppercase, lowercase, it doesn't matter. Now, this is where that comes into play when Sean was mentioning going back to 3ds Max. So applying, go back to the material editor. When you apply this bump map, as far as the environment DDS, right? And we didn't physically apply that to the model prior to pass export, but it is populated in our materials, right? So what this is going to do now, as this final parameter in our command prompt, what we'll need to apply here is the -e. What that's going to do, it's going to tell Make 3DO to say there is a reflection to this. So it's going to look for that bump map present in the pass export. That's how we're going to get this is how we're going to finalize adding the reflection property, I guess, to the model. Without adding this -e parameter that I'm just going to do right now, you won't get the reflection. Even though you've already done everything to the model, as far as pass export through 3ds Max, if you don't apply this -e parameter, that reflection most likely will not apply. It won't apply it. So that's the last critical step. And so I'm just going to do enter, and it's giving me some error. So what did we do wrong? Line 942, what the heck? I don't even have that many lines. Okay, so this is giving me some good information. What does it tell me here? So it is giving me some information about the bump map texture, which is relation to that environment map. Oh, let's see here. The fact that it's saying line 942, that's crazy. I don't even have that many lines. It's actually line 13. Victory Lane Pass. Okay, so it's line 942 of the actual Victory Lane Pass. Okay. So line 13 is what we need to look at as far as, and I think that's going to be where it calls the actual Victory Lane Pass. So the way I applied that there is obviously not right. Okay, so we're going to have to look at see how we did wrong here. So line 13, just to kind of, let's reopen up this is where opening up Notepad++ or any text editor that has lines, the actual lines into it, is going to come in handy. Let's open this up here. So line 13 is actually off by one, so it's saying it's actually on this comment line, so that's not even interesting. Very interesting. And sometimes these lines can be off, so the fact that it's referring to line 13 is not exactly what, let me see. Import file. So the fact that it's calling up this Victory Lane Pass, which should be this line right here. So I might have done something wrong with the way I applied that, because the fact that it does mention, it's still some valuable information, the bump map texture, it didn't like the way that was applied. So I can look at this pass file in a text editor to look at line 942 to see what's going on with that. But even what it's saying in here, it's telling me that there's something wrong with the way that bump map is applied for some reason, which it shouldn't be, but apparently it is. So let's see. Let's take a look at the pass file right in Notepad++ and see if this does show it. Like this, yeah. So in line 942, there's a lot of lines in here. So you can probably get an idea of what it is. It's giving you all the each vertex location, right? As far as the coordinates for each vertex, as well as the faces and or polys. So on 942, I'm gonna scroll all the way down here. Okay. So we're on line 509. That's probably another good thing I guess to go over. You can open the. I would not suggest to edit the pass file in this fashion. This is only for reference only, as far as to open it up this way, just to kind of get an idea of what's going on there, as far as what error that Make 3DO might give you. So 942 is this line right here. Okay, so what I think that, okay, so this probably might go back to what I, yeah, so this kind of reiterates what I said earlier, as far as we might have to actually have alpha channel on that environment map in this case. But what it's telling me here is it didn't like the fact that the alpha channel that is in the DDS isn't physically applied with that image alpha, I guess, as far as in that texture map. That's why it's yelling at me. Yep, that's what it looks like. So bump map texture says disable alpha, which we don't want it to do. We want to actually have the alpha in there. Okay, so we're gonna have to go back. Alright, so that's useful information. Now, again, only want to use, open up the pass file in this fashion here for reference only. You do not want to edit it from here. Not a good idea. Just a fair mention. But it does give you an idea, I guess, as far as that you can open that. In any text editor, I just happen to open it up in Notepad++ so I can get the actual line number. So that's probably a really good example of what I've already explained, I guess, as far as where a text editor like Notepad++ comes into handy. So what we need to do is go back to Max 5 here. We need to take a look at how we've got our bump map applied here. So what it kind of contradicts, I guess, as far as what I mentioned, as far as it not being critical to have this in here as image alpha. In this case, it looks like I'm going to need to have that. So the fact that it's not applying that, I'm not sure why. What I can do, instead of using a DDS, I can probably use a TGA so that I can ensure that it has the image alpha, and we can try it from that way. Typically, what you'd want to do, though, is make sure it's in a DDS. Let's go ahead and do this. We'll go through the motions here. So let's open up this environment map. We already got our paint program open anyway. Let's open up, and in this case I've got this DDS. Might be better for me to open up another bitmap. Yeah, let's do it this way. Yeah, let's do it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, this will kind of explain a little bit what I was mentioning earlier as far as taking any environment map from a track, right, and being able to create a alpha, a DDS and or TGA in this case with the alpha channel. So let's do bitmap for this. Let's see if this works. So we'll go shave ash, and we want to put that right in our, yep, right in our folder there. Cool. So now we should be able to open this bitmap into our paint program. There it is. We'll open that up, and actually no, I need to open up in map 2. My bad. Close that. Open that back up in MIP 2, like this, and then from here I'm going to create a TGA, and as This may or may not work the way I want it to. I'm going to try it this way to see what, because normally you want to have something in the invisible color to have it as an alpha channel. Been a while since I've had to create this, but we're going to go through the motions here. So I'm going to go save as. Save this as a TGA. Yep. Oh, and that was an error. So that's typically what, yeah, it looks for when you're creating a TGA, is it wants to have a invisible color to that. So, oh crap. Streams, don't dork out on me. Ah, crap. Come on, stream. Don't crap out on me. Shoot. Hold on. Hey, gummit. Hold on a second. Ah. Don't dork out on me. Come on, stream. Come on back. Holy crap, that was a lot of frames that just dropped right there. Hopefully I didn't lose a little. I just happened to notice. Hey, gummit. Wow, I gotta refresh this thing. Wow, that must have went a lot longer than I thought there. Hope that didn't, Holy crap, this thing is so far behind, that's not even funny. Hold on a second. Give me a second, folks. Wow, I didn't realize I dropped. That must have been out for a lot longer than I thought. Holy crap, that was so delayed. Okay, so I got that refreshed there. According to my... I was out for a whole minute. Holy crap. Okay, resetting that. This looks good. So, looks like we're back to only being about 3 seconds of delay. Just making sure. Yeah, I was totally bonkers on my end, though. Yeah, just checking my stats here. I was out for about 58 minutes. 58 seconds, I should say. My bad. And I dropped almost 8,000 frames. That's nuts. Okay. Alright, I'm going to give it a second here just to kind of calm down a little bit. Alright, seems to be good there. Apologize for that. And like I mentioned earlier part of the stream there, I am trying some different settings on here. Kind of bumping up the bit rate, I guess, as far as just a little bit. I'm not going full bore 6,000, I guess, as far as what Twitch does allow. And just making sure I'm not putting too much strain, I guess, on the PC is all. Because I am still running just such things as onboard graphics for that, as it still stands. I'm still working on possibly getting a different graphics card for the streaming PC. Okay. I'm just seeing, yeah, so I've been kind of keeping an eye on it, but it's, I think it's good to go now. Alright. That kind of freaked me out a little bit. So hopefully I didn't miss too much there. So all I was doing was just going over the procedure for creating a... Let's bring this back over. All I was doing is going over the procedure, I guess, for creating a bump map, I guess, as far as for environment map. Now, primarily, what will happen with it, and that's why it gave me an error. I wanted to check this here. This is where I kind of noticed it was going bonkers. The TGA for the environment map probably didn't work. Yeah, so that's just 0 kilobytes. Torch is going nuts on those. That's 200 units of fluid for that one. And you've got just about all of them so far. You've gotten all the jackpots. Is that the third one? Holy smokes. GG's. Wow. That's 3 jackpots. You've gotten the max one, the middle one, and the 2 lower ones, I think, at this point now, right? That's 4 jackpots. Was that 3 or 4? Yeah, so what happened when I tried to create that TGA for the environment map is it didn't do anything. It created an error here, so this is no good. Okay, so what I will need to do I'm gonna try opening this DDS here, so you kind of get an idea of how I did this one. This was the original DDS that I created back in 2006, just to kind of give you an idea. That should still be good to go. It has worked for me in the past, but something might have happened to it, I guess. Let's go ahead and delete this one. This is obviously junk. Yeah, it gave me an error for trying to create that without a... Yeah, so the point I was trying to make is TGA there, you always want to have some type of invisible color, right? I'm going to try and open up this DDS here. Yeah. So this is what we got, and it does have... Let's go to data information. It does not have an alpha. Okay. So I'm still a little bit confused as to why it's giving me that error for bump map on that. That's interesting. Yeah, this one, I've used this one many times, I guess, as far as going all the way back to 2006 as the date of that says. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and try again here. So let's go back into the material editor for this. So it does not have the alpha channel in there, as we just confirmed. So it shouldn't. There's something else I can refer to here if I need to. Let me double check this here. Let me double check some things. Let's see here. I don't know if I got that in here. I don't think I do. Nope, sure don't. Bummer. Okay, so crap. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can back up this environment map. I'm going to make a copy of this. Let's do like this, and then we're going to rename this one. Try something here, so I'll do this. I don't know if this will work or not, but in my head it kind of makes sense. Just want to figure out why this environment map in the form of a DDS is not applying properly, I guess, to the model here. It's definitely recognizing it. It's just not wanting to apply it properly to the model. That's what I need to figure out. What are the steps that I miss here? 30, 14. There's potentially a step that I might have missed. There's another approach that I could take to it. Was what I was trying to do is make it as a TGA, I should say. But I would need to apply an alpha channel to it. So whether or not we do it as a DDS, ETX5. The brain gears are grinding here. I'm just trying to find. Ezo Peach, Torch. Give the bot a break. Now that's 4. There we go. Holy smokes. Torch is on fire. Okay. Yeah, so what's weird is the fact that it is recognizing the fact that the environment DDS is applied to the model for past export, hence that line 942 on the pass file, so it is applied. I'm missing something, I'm not sure. What? Okay, so we got the parameters. Whoa. Got the parameters for that. That's good. I don't know what I'm missing. I'm trying to think. It's probably something really simple, too. Oh my goodness. Don't need image alpha. Alright, I'm gonna have to do this. I got a little footnote here. I'm gonna have to pull that out here real second. Give me a second here, folks. This is kind of perplexing me right now. Gotta go into my archives here. And of course I can't find it. That would be too easy, right? Let's put that. That should be good there. Alright, we're gonna get down to the bottom of this. See what this should definitely not be a problem here. Definitely killing it. Alright, let's load this up here. Hopefully this doesn't step on anything too badly. Okay. Let's load this up. Now, within here, I do have some things for max. Ah, crap. Oh, for crying out loud, where is it? Hold a second. Ah, lordy. Let's see, where do I got this thing? Pretty sure it's on this one. Yeah, I think it's under the track edit. Okay, yep, 3D reflection. Yep, that's the one I want. That is the one I want. Yep. So this is my, this is going all the way back to, like I said, 2005, 2006. Created a little tutorial here back in 13, I guess, as far as to kind of understand. Should be able to open this up. Let's see here. What this does, this is kind of my little cheat sheet back then. I put this together. This goes over everything what I've already shown on stream, as far as how this to apply reflection. So this is where it'll tell you, I guess, as far as it needs to be to form a DDS with reflection. I just need to see if there's something in here that I missed. So our specular, our parent, and there's our reflection. Yeah, see, here's the 5 and 25. I guess that I was mentioning as far as the initial values you want to apply to that. That should be fine. So there is that environment map in the form of a DDS. That's the same DDS that I've used in this example here. So I'm trying to figure out why the heck is that not working. It very well might be because I didn't put the DDS. I think that might be more what it is now that I think of it. Now that I've gotten a chance to look at this, because I didn't put, let me look at the Make 3DO. Here. So the Make 3DO, let's close that. I think I know what I did wrong. I had to reflect on my own notes here. So in the Make 3DO, I did not put the yeah, I did put the DDS. I may need to put the bitmap in there too. I'm thinking, yeah, because again, from what I do remember, and this is going all the way back even that far, you either have the bitmap or the MIP file, I guess, as far as the Make 3DO, because Make 3DO cannot read the DDS file. The only thing you need to apply to in the form of DDS is just for 3ds Max itself. So I think that's all I missed there. I can put this in here either as a bitmap or a MIP into here. I think I'll just use that bitmap that I created. That'll help. So let's go like this. I probably don't need that. I'm gonna take this. And if that don't work, I'll put the MIP in there as well. So that's probably a good thing, I guess, that this is happening here, so you kind of know. So the initial approach I took to this was to use DDS, but from what I do recall, Make 3DO cannot read DDS files, and that's probably why it's giving me the error, because it doesn't know what to do with this file. It's between either that or the fact that it can't find, I guess, as far as the bitmap or the MIP when I'm running it through Make 3DO. Okay. So we're going to put this bitmap in here, and then we're going to run this again. So as you can tell, whatever, as far as we ran, because we got that error, it did not spit out any 3DO. These might be the same types of things that you might run into, so this will kind of give you an idea of how to navigate past this is all. So what I'm going to do, because I've already got this typed out, my little shortcut here, I already got it typed. I'm just going to call that up through the F8 in the command prompt, and then we're going to run it again. And it's still giving me an error. Son of a gun. Oh yeah, so now I'm going to try putting the MIP in there and see what happens. If nothing else, what I'm going to have to do is create a new pass file. Yep, just have to try to make a new pass file, because that's only the only thing I can think of. So let's do this again. But then I'm going to bring the MIP in here. Bring that MIP in here. Now I can do either that one or this one. Okay. Probably a good thing that it is happening there, because you might run into the same type of problem. I haven't had any reason, I guess, to create these in a while, so... Kind of a little rusty myself, I suppose. Alright, so let's run it through, make 3DO again. So I already got it called up here. It's probably a good thing. So it's and it's still doing it. So what I'm going to do from this point, since it's still giving me the same deal, I'm going to have to create another pass file for some reason. It's making me do that. Alright, so let's expand this here. We're going to leave all that in here. If nothing else, I'm going to have to try and figure out how to create a new DDS file. This one's worked for me before. Last time we did that was for the 15 build of Texas Lake, for example. So those, I don't understand why it ain't working. So we're going to go through the motions here, create another pass file. The fact that it's actually recognizing it, that it's there, is kind of strange. I mean, it's reading that it needs to apply it to the model, right? I'm not understanding why it's giving me that error. What is wrong? So profile, pass, line 942. And we saw what line 942 said was mentioning to disable the alpha. Which technically is true, because this texture here does not have image alpha, and it does not need to have image alpha. Alright, let me look to see. I'm going to look at that pass file again here real quick here, just to... I already showed that in Notepad++. I kind of revisit that here for a second. So if we go pass file, this is the initial one we made here. I'm going to open this up in Notepad++. And we're going to look for, do a search here for environment. What do you mean? No. So the environment needs to be on the bump, right? So your reflection is your actual mask, your mask texture. In this case, we got that mask texture. So no, it wouldn't be on the reflection. Let me look at that. Now you said that, I think that was in bump. Look at that one here again here. So if we open this back up, I think I get what you mean. So, oh, you know what? You're right. Son of a gun. You are absolutely right. So that is the mistake I made. Good eyes there, Torch. Yeah, so the fact that I put it in, so that is I might have to go back over that again now, I think of it. As far as to get that right, yeah, so it does need to be in reflection, not bump. Yep. See, this is why we make, I make these little tutorials here. I'm glad I did this one way back then, because sometimes you have to refer back to that. Just little simple mistakes like that. So this is the type of error that you'll get if you put it in the wrong spot. If anything, you'll get this here, and it's because you don't want to bump to that as far as to apply reflection. Because I did that parameter for the reflection, it's like it's not in the right spot here, dude. And this is the best way that Make 3DO can explain it, to be like, hey, dummy, you got a bump map in there instead of... Now, if it would have been even nicer, I guess, for it to say you need to add reflection. But keeping in mind, this is going back to 2003 when this Make 3DO program, I guess, was created, I guess, as far as for NASCAR Racing 2003. So it's a very primitive type of tool, but it does give you somewhat of a, a bit of information, I guess, as far as what you're looking at. So the fact that I've got this to fall back on and relate that to what's actually happening in the form of an error on the Make 3DO. Torch, you definitely have a better eye than I do. Torch is just on the ball today, I'm telling you. Yeah, so the fact that, yeah, and even logically, it doesn't make sense as far as it needs to be in reflection, right? For some reason, I had it on the brain that it needed to be in bump, and that's totally wrong. So I just need to shift this over there. So I'm going to have to reiterate, I guess, as far as to go through that process there to make sure that it is in reflection and not bump, like I was initially explaining it. Oh yeah, you almost have to. This is why we do these live streams, to have these little short clips. That's why I mentioned as far as using the exclamation point clip and so on, so that you have these available to you, I guess, as far as to do that. Without having these references, I guess, to fall back on, you're never going to remember all this stuff. It's a lot going on with it. Recalling from memory the last time I did reflection, well, there you go. Right, but even this, having this little tidbit of documentation here, logically it even makes sense now that I think of it. Because you're adding reflection in the form of environment DDS, in this case, it would make sense that why I had bump on the brain, I don't know. Because bump is more of a normalization type of thing. You're adding like texture, like roughness or whatever to the model, which is a whole nother ball of wax when it comes to, we don't really have that option for Inner 2003 files necessarily, at least not to models in the form that we're doing it anyway. So, okay, now that we've got that cleared up there, I'll make it a point as far as to go back through getting all the proper things applied to our model. Not the bump, but the reflection. So let's do this. We're going to switch this out, and also what I want to do is to kind of adjust some things here. I'm going to go like this. We don't need this. All these, the bitmap is going to be fine. That's not that big of a deal, but this DDS is still valid. We just got to put it in the right spot, I guess, as far as here. So take it out of bump. We're going to clear this out. No, he's going to remember how to clear it out. Crap. I may just go ahead and reopen this bad boy. Just go through the whole steps all over again. I think I'm going to do that. I need to re-explain it anyway, because that was totally in the wrong spot. I want to be able to highlight that. Yeah, let's just do that. We're going to go ahead and reset this whole thing. Nope. And yes. Okay, cool. We're going to reload this 3DS right from the beginning. All over again. So, be really quick as far as to run through, I guess, as far as everything that's going on here. So, import. And we want to do the 3DS. That's the original one as far as the donor model. I don't want that. Completely replace. Cool. So we're just starting right from scratch. So we've got our model loaded. Okay. We're gonna initially name this to what we want this. So we're gonna do it like this. Bring up our material editor. Why does that not come up initially? Oh, typing it up there, you dummy. Yelling you. Alright. Alright, so here we go. We got our model loaded. Okay, what's the timestamp here? Let's go this. Right from the top. We're going to try this all over again, from start to finish. So we can get this down here. Right, so here we go. Pick your lane. You want to name your model what you want. You can load it in the 3DS. There you go. Bring up the material editor. And what you initially want to get applied to the model is your initial diffuse. So however you paint that up to whatever conformity. And the fact that it does have an alpha channel, so you want it in the form of a TGA through WinMip, for example, to get that alpha channel applied to the texture, right? And you'll be able to tell if your texture has alpha channel in it if this is already populated. If it's not grayed out, then you're good to go. It's as far as to have the alpha channel into the texture. And what you'll want to do is once you get your primary diffuse, your primary texture into your material editor, apply that directly to the model. Make sure that's directly applied. Okay. Your next step is going to be to add your specular, and it'll be previously created based on the conformity of the primary texture to add whatever level of reflection that you want in the particular areas. I've gone over as far as how to apply that. So I'm going to load this up as a bitmap and navigate to that mask file, which is this one. And that's going to be a totally separate texture from your primary texture. In this case here, you want it as typically as a bitmap. So just to kind of show what that texture looks like, we're going to have reflection in this area based on the primary texture. So in this area of the model or in the primary texture, this is where we're going to have reflection, right? Okay, so that's your next step. Do not, from this point, apply that directly to the model. The only thing you're doing is populating these into the particular areas would be the specular. Your last step, I shouldn't say your next step would be to add your actual environment map in reflection. I previously have shown this, I guess, as bump. We don't want it in bump, we want it in reflection. And then point to that. And even though it is a DDS, you can just bring it up through bitmap as far as 3ds Max is concerned. And then navigate to that actual DDS file, which in this case is this one. And this can be from any environment MIP that's in any of the default tracks or any other track that's in most likely in Virus. You can use that to create that. And I've gone through the process, I guess, as far as how to create that. This one seems to have worked for all of our other builds in the past. I'm going with that. With all this, so these are the 3 textures you want. You want your texture. This is going to apply both transparency to the areas of the model that we want it to be, in this case, as well as reflection, all in one full swoop. So you want your texture that has that alpha channel to it. You want your specular map. I'm going to move this over here. You're going to have your specular map for whatever you want to have reflection on. In this case, we want them on the windows. So that's already going to be previously created, as well as your environment in the form of a DDS. In the form of a DDS. That's totally going to wreck it. Yeah, that's totally going to wreck it. So I don't want to go over it again, but I feel like I got to. I know you're having fun with that torch there. That's totally wrecking us as far as what I was trying to do as far as to highlight what's going on with this here. So I need to go over it again just to make sure everybody's hearing it. I don't want to turn that off there because I know you're having fun with it. Don't get me wrong, but it's like you're on a roll with it. It's GG's on that. But as far as me explaining this, it's kind of stepping, I guess, as far as what I'm trying to show. So it's probably my own fault. Don't get me wrong, because I did it wrong in the first place. I shouldn't have had to go over this again. But I want to make sure that this is all nice and clear. So for this next minute or two, kind of keep it a little bit, a little bit quiet. Let's put it that way. Very much appreciated if you can do that just for the moment here. So what I want to be able to do, right, just for clarity, what I want to be able to do is have this replace, I guess, an existing clip that I have on the Safer Barrier Project channel. That's a little bit outdated, right? So if anything else, I know you already know how to do all this, but there's plenty of people that don't know how to do this. So just to kind of pay attention here just for a minute or two, so I can explain, I guess, as far as what's going on with this, so that everybody that may not know does know how to do this. Because I know, though, like I said, the one video that I have there is very spotty, for lack of a better way to say it. I guess as far as there's lack of vocals, it's very just overall dated, right? So if I could, kindly, I guess as far as just for the next minute, or maybe a minute and a half or two, keep it quiet. Right, so that I can explain, I guess, all this so that everybody else can kind of understand what's going on here. I really appreciate it. Okay, I'm not yelling at you, whatever like that. I know you're having fun with that, and that's pretty cool. That's what I've got it there for, right? But for this little bit of segment here, I'd like to have a little bit of quiet time, I guess, if you will. Alright, so just to reiterate, as far as what's going on here, if you want to get transparency applied to your model, as well as reflection, right? You want to have your diffuse main texture, gets as far as with your transparency, and that'll be in the form of a TGA that'll have that alpha channel to it. You can create that in WinMap 2 with that alpha channel, right? Okay. So that'll be all be previously created, and also your mask as far as where you want your reflection to be, that'll be a separate texture. The environment map has already been created. Alright, so I'm just kind of glazing over some of this right now. So here we go. Diffuse texture, you want to apply that in your material editor. Once your model is loaded, aim your model to what you want. Load your texture, your apparent texture in here through your material editor like so. You want to make sure that that initial diffuse or your apparent texture is applied to your model, right? So that the mapping of the, as far as the UV texture coordinates are applied to the model. And again, this also is going to include your transparency. If you don't have this option here for image alpha, then you may make sure to adjust the texture so that you do. Otherwise, your transparent areas are not going to show on the model. So that is critical. That's a critical piece if you want that transparency there with the alpha channel to show. Okay. And the next texture you want to apply is that specular model, which is your mask, which is going to be the areas that you want to have gloss to it. Right? This can be in the form of a bitmap. It doesn't need to be a TGA with the alpha channel or anything like that. Nothing special with that. So that is our reflection there. So there we go. So that is your next texture. Your other texture you want to apply 100%. And I have shown this previously as a bump. You don't want to have it in bump. You want it in reflection. Okay. So the only texture that you need to apply physically to the model is your main texture, which is your primary texture, your main diffuse. That's the only one. These other deals, these other textures that you do apply here, do not need those physically applied to. As long as they are populated under the specular and the reflection, you should be good to go. The only other requirement, I guess as far as prior to mass export, is to apply the specular level and glossiness level. Primarily, I guess the best results that you'll get out of this is a 5 on the specular and a 25 on the glossiness. This will give you a pretty good result for applying glossiness to such things as windows. You can feel free, I guess, to adjust this as you see fit to get the proper result that you're looking for. But you can also kind of go back and forth between this and your texture, adjusting the amount of white or gray to that mask texture for your reflection of your primary texture. All right, you can adjust that to get the level of glossiness that you're looking for. This, like I said, seems to work, I guess, the best, because as far as this result and having this amount, this level of grayness, if you will, this as far as to get the sufficient amount of glossiness to that. And we'll be able to see this once we create the model, right? All right, so here we go. So now with all this applied, we got our settings to our specular and our glossiness. We got all the textures that we need to it. This is that. So now we can go ahead and export this out as pass file. Jean Von coming in there. Welcome in, Jean Von. You just got over, I guess, a little bit of a segment that I had there. Just in time. How we doing there, Jean Von? I was just explaining a little bit, I guess, as far as how to set up a pass export for a model. I had to put everybody a little bit of a timeout, a little bit, I guess, as far as like that, because just to kind of replace, I guess, a segment of that. In fact, before I do that, I'm going to do this. And this is totally available for anybody else to use, too. Just keep in mind. I'm going to do that. There we go. So now that I got that taken care of there, I was saying, you came in just as I was finishing up, I guess, that segment, I guess, as far as to explain how to apply, what needs to be applied as far as prior to pass export for our model here for reflection and transparency as far as alpha channel and all that good stuff. So that's pretty cool. You're doing? Yeah, I haven't heard you from you in a while. Yeah, I was wondering what the heck was going on. You got 5 now though, Torch? That's crazy. Torch has been on fire with the slots, and then he was getting super excited. You can kind of tell that, you know, it's kind of like what I mentioned as far as I had to put the chat there and a little bit of a timeout there so I can kind of run a little segment there, I guess, as far as to explain what was going on there. So there's still plenty of people that probably don't know what goes into these types of processes. So yeah, feel free, I guess, to have fun with those again. I'm kind of over with that now. You're back to work, but yeah, you're working 12 hours. What happened there? What the heck happened there? Last thing you were facing, that's through the same job you had previously though, right? 12 hours. What happened there? Did they finally get what the stuff they needed, I guess, to be able to do that? I can imagine from what you were talking about before. I'm sure they're probably behind, you know, as far as back orders and stuff like that. And you can feel free to elaborate on that, Jean Van, if you so choose to. If not, that's totally fine too. But I remember from what we talked about previously, it's kind of rough. Tons of people quit. They finally got so they got the parts to run, but people probably quit. Wow. I mean, yeah, that's pretty rough too. So if you don't get enough staff, I guess, to be able to keep up with the parts that they now have. I mean, it's good that they got the parts, but yeah, you're probably having to work the 12 hours, I guess, as far as for lack of staff. That sounds rough. Well, I will totally understand, I guess, as far as if you're just totally whipped and can't stick around for too long, but hopefully you can stick around, I guess, for a little while. We're getting ready to get this thing exported out. I got this thing all set up here. That's where I was getting to be able to export this out as a pass file, right? And we're gonna create. Now we got it corrected. I made a little boo-boo, I guess, as far as applying the way we needed to. So now that we got that all fixed, we can overwrite this original pass file that we did earlier. Okay. So now we should be able to take this pass file that we just created just now, copy that over to our Make3DO directory. Yep, so that one's newer. Now we shouldn't get any error. Now, all we should really need in here, and I'm gonna, just to kind of prove this, I'm gonna take out the MIP and the bitmap. All we should need is that original DDS file. That should work. If it doesn't, then we can follow this same procedure that we did earlier. But from what I do remember though, if memory serves me correctly, Make3DO, as far as the primitiveness, I guess, of the Make3DO program, it can't read DDS files, so it may not work. So one of the other things that I was going to try and do, I'm going to take these out first for a second. I got those in my other folder, so I'm good to go. The other thing I did want to look at here really quick is to open this up here. Oops, I already had it open here. I forgot about that. Let's close that out. Kind of got sidetracked there a little bit. So we're going to open this up here, and I'm going to search for environment. Jadvan coming in there with that prime. Holy smokes. Yikes. Jadvan, what is up? I mean, I'm clearing like 1,500 a week, but sheesh. I want to get back to gaming. Yeah, no kidding. It's been a hot minute, I guess, as far as we've been able to stream, that's for sure. Everybody's been enjoying those. I've got those in the channel points as far as your little clips, you know, little sound clips there. So yeah, we still got you in spirit, I guess, as far as. But it's good to have you on here. Definitely good to have you on here. Yeah, I'm sure the money's probably pretty darn nice, but yeah, as far as having all that time, yeah. Let's see if I spelled this thing right, huh? Appreciate that sub. You're taking advantage of that sub timber. We got about 5 days left on that thing. I don't know, does that actually hold true with the Prime as well? The fact that that was a... You could use that anywhere. I don't know why you're wasting it on me, but I appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it. Why am I keep spelling this wrong? I'm spelling it out in my head, and I'm physically spelling it out wrong. It's crazy. Environment. There we go. So we want to see if we can find this in our... So it should list this. Environment map right there. Disable alpha, so that's good. See, and it is listing it here as a DDS. That's what I wanted to see. So the fact that I'm putting the DDS actually in the Make3DO directory, in theory, at least it should read this, because this is the file that's actually applied to the model, is the DDS file. Right, so that's what I wanted to clarify. So all these textures that we did apply, the TGA that has the alpha channel, for example, and our mask, which is in a bitmap, those are all listed right here. And again, I can't reiterate enough. This pass file, when you open it up in a notepad text editor, you do not want to edit this at this level. You will screw up. You're going to get very not very good results as far as running the pass export through Make3DO, editing it from a text editor. Not a good idea. It's better to create a brand new pass file through the plugin of 3ds Max, if you can do that. Okay, Torch is still having some fun. Yeah, we definitely deserve a drink there, that's for sure. Cool. Alright, just making sure I didn't miss anything in chat. I appreciate everybody's patience and understanding, I guess, as far as getting through that one segment there. I just felt like I really wanted to get that out there. But see, this gives you a lot of information of how the speculative levels and the shininess or whatever are applied. Again, don't want to adjust it from here. This is only for reference, just to confirm that it did actually apply it, and the textures and such that are applied. Same goes for like a 3DO. Even though you can open a 3DO in a text editor, you don't want to edit it from that level. Same goes for this pass export. But it gives you a lot of information. It shows all your where your textures to what poly are applied and so on and so forth. It's a lot of information in here. Even just for this really simple model. Okay, so that's all I wanted to confirm, that it is referencing the actual DDS file, which we have in here. So it should work here in theory. If it does give us a problem, we can put either the bitmap or the MIP file in here, and that should correct it, but we should be okay. So let's go ahead. With that being corrected, we shouldn't get this error anymore for this bump map, having that in the wrong spot. Right? Alright, so let's go ahead and bring up our F8. Like so. So we already got that typed in, so it's going to save us a little bit of typing. We want to use the same parameters, as far as call up the Make3DO. We got our -S for running a script, name of our script, which is Vic Lane, and then that reflection parameter of the -E. That's going to tell it that there is a reflection to this model. If you don't apply this E parameter to it, this -E, you won't get reflection on the model, even though you've taken all the steps prior in the pass export. So just to make that much I do know for sure. So if we split this out now, that should create a 3DO. No more error. Sweet. So putting that in the right spot does definitely help. So we can open this up here, even with what we've got in here, into 3D SimEd, and we can see what we look like. And again, we don't want to go by what it looks like in here. We definitely want to make sure we get it into the track via sandbox, as well as into the game, which we're going to get to. That's what we're working ourselves up to. Okay, thanks. Alright, so there it is. At least loads. The fact that it does load, that's actually huge. Now, what I didn't do, this is probably something else I could probably mention. I do not think that I did put this into the 0 coordinate. So that's something else I get to do consider. So when I bring it initially into the track, which I'll probably correct that later. But for now, whatever, I'll have to manually place that. So we'll have an XYZ, for example, as far as coordinates. So I didn't build it in place, I guess, as far as based on the LiDAR. I did confirm, at least as far as prior to 3ds export, that it was the proper height, based on the LiDAR. That can be confirmed. But even as you can probably tell with the fact that when I open this up in here, it's center oriented, if you will. So it's not, I won't be able to put it at 0 like everything else that's in the track, for example. But at least we will be able to get it loaded into Sandbox and get it into the track, and I'll redo that, I guess, as far as later on, as far as to get it at 0. Just so that it complies with everything else that's in the track. Just a fair mention, I guess, with that anyway. Oh, you almost got it there again. Holy crap. Good grief. Alright, so we're good to go at this level, at least so far. We can close this out. Now what we need to do is we need to create, I'm going to cut this out and put this into our edit folder for our victory lane, which is right here. Okay, now what we're going to do is create MIP files. We need to create one for our mask, our victory lane, and we already got one for the environment. This should already be in the track. So this is, we don't really need to recreate this one. I just put this in here for the sake of, you know, where it derives from. So this should already be in our track, and just to confirm that, if we go into our track, that should be already in here. Watch me make a liar out of me. So environment map should already be right here. So the fact that that's already in here, we don't need to recreate that. This one here will be perfectly fine. Whether or not this gets edited, I guess, from Torch's perspective, as far as to apply a different type of environment map, that's totally possible too. Leave that. But the Torch, I'm sure he'll probably just leave that the way it is. But that is already created. Just kind of confirm. So all we need to do in our handy dandy WinMIP 2, we're going to go in here, we're going to create 2 MIP files. So we're going to load this up here, and granted, this is still going to need to be updated as far as the way it's painted. For now, for the sake of demonstration here, I'm just going to leave it at that. So we do want the transparency in here. It's already going to load just like this. All we got to do is select MIP, and in most cases here we can just leave it everything else the same. We still want to have this area to be transparent, so we're going to leave that on there. That's all based on the original TGA that we created with that alpha channel. Whether or not we do need to change the priority or anything like that, that's still yet to be determined once we get it into the track. For now, we're just going to leave it just like it is. That should be fine. We'll save that as a MIP file. Okay, give that a second to load. Okay, there we go. And then just to confirm that it did create that, there's that MIP file. So now we're going to create one for our mask. We'll go ahead and create that. We'll load this one up in the form of a bitmap. Same thing. Go to MIP. Don't really need to change anything else. The fact that it is at a map 3, as far as the UV coordinates of that, that works perfectly fine for the way we've got the UV texturing, UV mapping to this model. That should all work just fine. So we'll go File, Save As, leaving it Victory Lane Mask. That is the name that we did apply to the model prior to pass export, for example. So we definitely want to follow that same naming convention as we did in our material editor for Max, Furious Max. Save that. Okay, that's pretty quick. So now we got all of our textures that we need. So we got our mask, our primary texture, and our environment map, which is already in the track. So with that all being done, we're going to take this, and this, copy all of this to our track edit folder, and we're going to get this thing into the track. And again, keeping in mind what I already said, yeah, we did already have this in here, I guess, as far as from the previous thing, so this is probably going to be, we're going to go with this newer one, because I went through all that. This is from the previous attempt that we were trying to get that last week, and we didn't get to it. We're going to go with this one here, though. We're going to skip over that. We're just going to overwrite these original ones here, like so. Yep, so I had those all in there previously. There we go. So there we go. We got our brand new items here, I guess, for that. So now we're going to go into Sandbox. We're going to go into our object placement view. Yeah, so like I was saying, what's going to happen here is we won't be able to put this in here at 0, much like all the other objects that Torch has applied here. I'll probably fix that later on. What we want to confirm here is that our model is kosher, for lack of a better way to put it, I guess, as far as the reflections applied, and that we don't have any, weirdness, I guess, going on with it that we need to correct, I guess, prior to getting it where it needs to be. So we're going to go, let's do it right. This will do anywhere in the track, usually either outside the track, because we've got so many other models in here that, kind of step on. We can definitely go like this, and then just choose that model should be in here as far as Victory Lane. It's probably better. That way you don't have to worry about shifting something even very erroneously, I guess, as far as, you know, sometimes when you try to select that, it tends to shift items. It's sometimes better to come way out in some empty space to bring in items and then get it to where you need it to be from there. Not only that, but then you can see it easier too, because sometimes it gets kind of clouded over, if you will, as far as not being able to find it because it's not at the proper level and so on. So most cases when you bring in an object in here, is to come out into some empty space, look for our model, which is this one. We should have everything in there, so it didn't give us any error, didn't yell at us. That's good. So there's our model, and it may or may not load. This is sometimes normal. If it doesn't want to populate, you know, as far as to show visually, we can see the bounding box. In fact, the bounding box for it is actually in here. We're good to go. Yeah, so I think what we're going to have to do is get it initially into position here, and we're going to have to reload, save it as a new PTF. We're adding this object and then reloading the track. We're going to get this roughly in position right there. And let's see if we need to bring up the Z at all, out of curiosity. So the bounding box is still going to be our friend, right? As far as being able to get that initially placed. Now what we'll have to do, we got the bounding box, but there's no actual object. That, like I said, that's sometimes normal. Okay, so now we're going to do, I always like to switch back to geometry view before I save a new PTF. Just because sometimes in the object level, for whatever reason, strange reason, things tend to load slower and or save slower if you have it in anything other than geometry mode. Why that is, I don't know. It's just the nature, I guess, as far as sandbox. That's why I always like to try to, I just go back into geometry mode so I don't have to worry about it taking longer, I guess, to either load in the track or to save it. So I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before, but that's kind of, so we've got several PTFs in here, and we've got notations in here as to what is going on with what. So the latest one that we got is this one for the 24th, which is the latest that I was showing here. This is what we got loaded here currently. I'm going to name this one as Add Victory Lane so that I know what's going on with this one. And whether or not you put the date to it, that's totally up to you. Most of these that we have in here do have the date on it. I tend to go by the date that's on the date modified, as far as keeping in this view, I guess, as far as the details. If you use like the large icons or different format, I guess, as far as for that, it might behoove you, I guess, to put the date within the PTF name itself. Okay, so we're going to name this one as Add Vic Lane, just to kind of short it up, just so that we know what's going on with this PTS save. And again, like I said, if you want to add the date to it, that's totally up to you. I didn't even spell that right. What is with my spelling today? I'm telling you. Spelled environment wrong earlier. Eesh. All right, here we go. Good to go. Save that. And then what we'll have to do with saving that out there, we're going to have to do a new. And then usually what I like to do, let's do it quick. This over here. I like to close sandbox completely out. Okay. I don't know why that keeps coming up there. Keep the sandbox info. That's another screen that I was trying earlier, you know, as far as doing these types of builds in here. I don't know why it tends to always put that up on here. I don't think I touched that button, but whatever. As far as the sandbox info. Anywho, so now we got to navigate to and find our PTF that we just saved, which is, let's refresh this again. Should be Add Victory Lane. There it is right there. So there's our new one right there. So the fact that I put the date or anything onto it, there it is right now. So we're going to load that back up. Didn't get any errors or anything like that. Yes, there it is again. Get that off. There we go. Yeah, that little sandbox info. I noticed that comes up every once in a while. I'm not sure why. Super crazy. Torch is trying for triple, what do you call those as far as in hockey there, as far as a triple, they call it a hat trick, like a triple hat trick or double hat trick. Gotta give this a second to load here, give it a second. I know on y'all's end, that's coming in pretty solid, but for me, I guess I gotta wait a little bit. There we go. So the track is loaded. We didn't get any errors, which is good. Now we should be able to see. Yeah, we should be able to see our model. So if I slew over to it, and again, keeping in mind that I don't have this at a 0 orientation here, but there it is. Now, if we look at this, we should see reflection. Should. And the level that we put it at, it's pretty, you know, minor, for lack of a better way to put it. You kind of tell it's kind of hard to tell it, I guess, on that. But it is there. Very minor. So if you want to, you know, like I was mentioning, as far as to play around, I guess, with those values in either max or change the amount on the bump map for it's. I want to keep say bump map on the mask. You know, as far as how much white is applied to it, you can definitely do that. But you can barely see. There's a little bit of reflection on that. See, there you go. There's a little bit. You can tell a little bit easier that way. That little bit of reflection. So to me, I think that, you know, just the subtle reflection on it is more than enough. Yep, you can kind of tell there a little bit too. Just very subtle, not a ton of it. But if you wanted to add more to it, to have more glossiness to it, again, either through those values that are in max or from the texture itself. We need to make a little bit more adjustment to this here, and I will be applying that 0, you know, build it in place, if you will, as far as based on that. I did not do that for this particular model, like I said, so I'll be doing that later. But just to, we want to get it into the tractor to make sure that we don't need to adjust anything drastic to it. So the way we've got this so far, we're going to highlight this, go to camera view. You need to bring it up just a little bit, it looks like. Yeah, so it's a little buried into the ground. Let's bring this up a tad. So we got to go to fixed. Yeah, so just like I said, this, as far as it does have an XYZ coordinate other than 0, so let's bump this up on the Z. How much am I going to do? Let's try 0.5 meter. Yeah, so we can see that's coming up a little bit. Let's try a little bit more. So what I'm looking at is just this bottom edge, you know, between all this, making sure it's not buried into the ground. Let's try 1 actually. I can even go more than that, so what's the point? Yep, so we still got quite a bit still buried on this part here. 1.5, probably too much. Let's try. Actually, no. Okay, cool. This will all be adjusted later on, as far as we put it at 0, like I said, so. 9. Huh. 2? A little bit more buried than I thought. 0.2. That's probably a little too high, so let's do 2.1. That's pretty decent right there. Again, this will get adjusted later on, but just to kind of give you an idea where that would need to be. Cool. So let's see what we got here. So I think I pointed this out before too. I think there are seating areas, I guess, as far as over here. Whether or not that will get added to this deal, that's still yet to be determined as well. But it does have the fencing in there at least. And then we do have the transparency. So not only do we have the reflection on the windows, which, like I said, is very subtle, but also the transparency and the fencing. So that's killing the 2 birds with 1 stone, I guess, as far as applying both the reflection and the transparency in one model. And a very simple model too. Yeah, I'm quite pleased, I guess, as far as how that turned out. And we want to do this as far as like we do with every other model to make sure. Let's do this. Take the bounding box off of that. Let's do that. And let's check it from all levels. So the fact that we've got that magenta color, you can see a little bit of you know, as far as the way that the black, as far as the bars on that there, that's pretty normal. It's probably not a whole lot you can do about that. That's going to happen regardless if you use a TI or not. What I'm really concerned about is getting magenta bleed, I guess, from further distances, and we're not getting that. That's good. That is a good thing. So the fact that no matter where we're at, distance-wise in there, we're not getting any magenta or that alpha channel bleed on that model. Other than that, yeah, so all that little, for lack of a better way to put it, as far as like artifacting, I guess as far as the fencing, because of the bars from a distance there, probably not going to be able to do anything about that. That's really not that bad anyway, to be honest. Yeah, so just checking it all from all angles, just to make sure we're all good to go. Now, this model here, as we compared last week here, we found that this model that we recreated, based on that donor model from the 2015 build, ended up being 96 polys in total. We started off with like 58, and you know, again, going back to what I mentioned, I guess as far as earlier in the stream, where these are the things you have to take into consideration when you're creating your model. If it's got a certain number of polys based on, you know, having it in max prior to 3ds export, or even DAE for that matter, you have to consider that it's going to add polys to that based on that format that you're exporting it out to. So that's where we're at. It didn't necessarily double it, and this is why also rejustifies, I guess, as far as why you don't want to take a model from 3D SimEd, edit it, and then create a new 3DO, because it's going to triple, if not quadruple, at minimum, I guess, as far as the number of polys and faces and vertices that are in the model. And if you're doing that all in multiplicity to all the models as you're building the track, it's not going to be a good turn, very good result. You're gonna experience lag and, you know, drop frames and things like that, I guess, as far as when you're racing around that. So that's at least a couple of different models that we have in the infield now. As far as our score tower, we did way earlier, which probably still needs to be reskinned with the proper logos to that. That'll still yet to be done, as well as our victory lane. So what I'll do is we'll save this PTF in this position, and Torch, just to reiterate, I will make sure I redo this model so that it is in that 0 orientation. I'll build it in place based on that LiDAR model, and get that to you, I guess, as far as the model as well as the PTF. Well, probably don't really need a PTF, because all you need to do is put it at 0. But I'll make sure I get those all to you, I guess, as far as in that proper 3DO orientation for it. That's if you're satisfied with it as well. I guess I'm making an assumption there, I guess, on that. So I'm going to save this and go back to Geometry View. Okay, and then save this as an... I'm going to just, because we're only dealing with this one deal, I guess, as far as in this particular PTF session, I'm just going to go ahead and override it. If you've got much more that you've done in the PTF, you know, with like geometry and things like that, definitely want to make a new PTF. But the fact that it's pretty minimal, I guess, as far as what we've done in this PTF session, it's pretty safe, I guess, to go ahead and just overwrite that, because you don't have that much to fall to go back on, right? If you had more, like I said, you would definitely want to save a new one so you're not losing all that work, potentially. Because we know, as we come to know, that it is a very buggy program, as primitive as it is. So let's go ahead and overwrite that. So if it was to break at this point, that's all we would have as far as put this back into position. It's not that much more lost. Okay, so with that new PTF, we're pretty in good shape now to be able to get everything that we need to get over to our game track directory, right, and be able to test this thing out in the sim. So I'm going to go ahead and close some things out here. Now we're pretty good to go on all that. I don't see any further adjustments that we need to make anyway. Just to reiterate what I was saying about, let's convert this to an editable poly. What I was reiterating, I guess, about how many polys that we have in this model prior to pass export. So converting that over to an editable poly. We had 58 prior to 3ds export into Max 5 here. Right now it is sitting at a 96 polys, and that's when you consider, I guess, as far as what's going on, and we got the double-sided fencing and things like that, it's really not that bad. It's still relatively low poly, and you got all that detail. But the fact that we did initially start out at like 58 prior to 3ds export, that's definitely something we need to take in consideration prior to that export. So if you're trying to add a lot of detail, like in grandstands or anything in consideration, I guess, as far as that, you can't 100% go by what you initially have polygons wise prior to the 3ds export. It's gonna add to it, and it's the same thing that happens with the 3D SimEd program too. Okay. Anyway, we can go ahead and close this out, and we're gonna get this thing set up so we can get all of our things moved over to. We're making good time here, even with what we had to go back on, what we had to fall back on there. We're making pretty good time here. I appreciate everybody's sticking around here. Sweet, you are? Okay, so I just happened to catch up in stream there. So if you are satisfied with that, other than getting it into that 0 orientation there, I'll make sure I fix that. I will do that post stream. As you kind of get the idea of what's going on with that, we kind of showed that last couple of streams, I guess, as far as how to build the model into place, confirm that it is the proper height, in this case using that LiDAR information, I guess, to that advantage. So yeah, go ahead and close some of these things out. Let's kind of clean up here. This will probably need to get so this is probably something else I want to mention too. The stuff that we got last week from Racer James, as far as based on the original model, he doesn't even, this goes to show you how old it is and where it's come from. I kind of showed it briefly last week, I guess, as far as the orientation of the texture, that it was prior to this. It's not the same orientation, so we can easily still probably repaint this, no problem. We can easily discern, I guess, as far as what area is what, and that's all a part of how you design the texture. If you can make it more clear and concise, as far as what areas belong where, that's part of, you know, so not only from building the model itself, but also the texture. It's kind of an art form in itself, I guess, as far as to design both the texture and the model to make it easier to understand, as far as like what you got going on there. But even what Torch has done, I guess, with that signage texture, to use so much, you know, with it, you know, the outer ground, as well as some of the billboards that are on the back strips and things like that, maximizing that big palette that you have for that texture, that's another thing. And the fact that it's so cleanly laid out, you know, to kind of understand where everything is at, it's I think that's part of the, okay, so we can close that out. Okay, now what we need to do, I'm gonna go on to move some things around here so we can get this going here in the so we don't need to make 3DO stuff. I'm just closing things out. Yep, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove some of these items. We don't need these anymore. We're good to go. We brought these all over from our handy dandy edit folder, just as far as for Victory Lane, so we're good there. Delete that out. I'm gonna close out my command prompt. Yeah, I'm kind of almost glad at this point that it did, because if you do it wrong, this thing can really tell you, I guess, as far as, you know, what you are doing wrong. And, you know, in hindsight, as far as the fact that it was telling me it was a bump mat texture, that was a clue to say I've got something in the wrong spot, right? And Torch made it clear, as far as even going back over my notes that I showed here earlier, I guess, as far as all the way back from 2006. That tells you anything. We've been doing this a while. We've got a plethora of information, I guess, to share in that regard, and this is why we like to do the streams, I guess, to kind of share that information for anybody that would care to want to get into this type of thing. Okay, so we're gonna close that out. We don't need that anymore. What else? This one here, close that out. This is all my handy dandy. This is going all the way back to, I want to say, this grandstand that we created here, I think was for, kind of open this up here and see. Okay, this was just for just a random grandstand. So this is another example, I guess, as far as how you can design a script for something such as that. I won't go into that, but this goes all the way back to 2006. And I created this tutorial, I guess, in 2013, so it's next to 8 years old. But it's still relevant. That's the crazy thing. And this is the same DDS file that I used all the way back then for that model that I just created with this Victory Lane. That still holds true, I guess, as far as it still a solid piece. So some of these tools that we have are still pretty good to use. I'm actually considering, as far as to put a lot of this stuff available to anybody that wants to get into this, as far as to make sure that you have everything that you need, just in case you're having trouble, I guess, as far as with creating such files like this in the form of a DDS. Yeah, so I'll have to put that. I'll put that in my footnotes, I guess, as far as you get that. That's a side note. I know I've got other things available, I guess, as far as the sample PSGs, as far as for multipass and so on. So it would probably help somebody, I guess, as far as for someone to do that. Again, just in case anybody was curious and wanted to do that. Let's go ahead and eject that. Don't need that anymore. It's nice to have these little tidbits of information here. Alright, so I gotta put this back. Second. I'm gonna have to move some things over here. I guess I'm gonna do some driving on this thing, that's for sure. I didn't get a chance to do that last week. I cleaned up the studio here a little bit, but it's not 100%, but it's better than it was last week, that's for sure. All right, let's continue getting some things. I don't need Limit 2 anymore. Good to go on that, and we also don't. I'll leave that open there for a minute. Why not? We're good to go on that. That's ain't gonna work. So C. Let's get this recentered here a little bit. There we go. Perfect. All right. Awesome. 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 Cool. All right. Let's get some things moved over here. Ellie. So I need to. Right then. Let's see what we got here. So I got. I'm gonna need that new PTF that I just did on top of. Okay. You're gonna hear me talking to myself a lot here. This helps me. It might be a little weird, but hopefully not too bad. So I need to back up this PTF here in our game track directory from last week that we tried this out. I did correct that issue that we were having, if I didn't make that clear, as far as that blackness that we were witnessing as far as in game for that outer ground. That has already been corrected. I'll probably need to correct it again as far as to get the right texture, the proper texture for this week. So just making sure that's all done. Alright. Let me move this over here. I'm gonna move some things around. You might hear some little clunking and shifting of things around. That's just me moving my stuff around here, just as far as to get set up here. Don't mind me. Okay, so we're gonna back this one up. It's all that busy work. I know, as we've mentioned that before, I guess as far as some of that busy work is the most important stuff. Okay, so this is. I know a lot of this you can't see. I've been able to put this on screen, but all I'm doing is moving stuff from our track edit directory, that's which I have on the screen, over to the game track directory. That's all I'm doing. So just, instead of being able to see, windows, I guess, keep flipping back and forth, whatever, I'll just leave it on the one. Alright, so I need this one. Track edit directory, and I need this PTF. Okay, so I do have a PTF in here. I just noticed that we did one on the 30th of August, I guess, as far as initially trying to add the victory lane, which now we're to this point as far as just reconstructing that. That's amongst some of the PTFs that I have here. I don't want that one. This one and the victory lane. Okay, so copy those two, and then all the stuff that Torch gave me that was brand new, to include the track magnet items, obviously. Okay, so that. The game track directory, yes. I need to rename this PTF so it'll load into our game, so it's the same name as our track. Critical. Otherwise, you get that could not load track. There's that. Now I need to bring over all of Torch's items here, which all these new items, I'll put that on that screen here for a second. That was the track edit folder. So all the new items, which are right here, to include the track mat items. So there we go. We got to add all that to it. At least you all can see what I'm adding. So we're going to do the track mat items first. Select all that. Copy that. For a game capture. We're going to replace all the files that are, got 4 of them. Oop. Something I'm still getting used to on Windows 10 as far as changing the view. Much more complicated than Windows 7, which there we go. All those are in there. Now I did the track mat items. Now I need that signage. Italians. Lots and lots of busy work. Okay. You don't need this PTF at this point because I got the new PTF. So the PTF that I just created is going to include what Torch has already sent me here, so I don't need this one. I want the PTF I saved that has that picture lane that we just created and we added. In order to have that applied there, we need to use that one instead. That is already in there. But paste all this in here. And yes. Deal. So we should have everything that we need over here. In theory. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and get this switched over. I'm going to take a short little recess to get this all switched out. So feel free, I guess, to get yourself refresh your beverage, grab a snack. I'm going to run a short little race on this thing once we get it loaded up in here. So I'm going to wear up. Stream's crapping out again. Stay with me, stream. Stream's burping there a little bit. Okay, give it a second. It's probably good time, I guess, to take a little bit of a break here just to kind of let that settle down a little bit. Oh, snap. Okay. I think we are ready. I'm gonna go ahead and launch up. Make an attempt here, at least anyway, to launch up the sim here. Now we got everything over that we need to. We need to make an adjustment to second here, so I need to do this. Hope everybody's got their favorite snack filled up on your favorite beverage, or even take a little bit of bio break maybe. We're about to do some racing here. Let's do that. Let's bring this over. Alright, so what we're in the process of doing here at the moment, get this switched over to simulation here. Build this. NASCAR Racing 2003. Let's change the profile. And get her launched. Hopefully we shouldn't have any errors loading the track up there. If we've done and moved everything over that we need to, it should be all good to go. In theory. Oh, 6 slots. 6 slots. Holy crap. Torch is just on fire today. Nobody else is, I haven't noticed anybody anyway as far as playing into that. Torch has just been stealing all the thunder, I guess, off that. Just crazy. Alright, so let's go into testing mode for this. We're going to use, just to kind of confirm here, we're using the Splash and Go NASCAR Racing Winston Cup 2003. This is like the enhanced version of the original Papyrus model. So like, if Papyrus would have redone it, this is what Splash and Go, from those like Osmond and all that over in that group, I guess, as far as have done with it. Very fantastic mod. Anywho, we're gonna go and use this mod as far as to load up our track here. We should not get any problems if we've done this right. So far it seems good. Looks like we're in good shape so far. Track does load. We're gonna go into drive. So it does put us in the track. Cool. Let's make an initial lap here, I guess, as far as just in here testing. I'll definitely be loading this. I'll turn the music off. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'm not gonna be racing just yet, but yeah, just to kind of get all the sounds that is the sim. Yeah, not a bad idea. That's a good suggestion. I was definitely going to make sure I turn that off as far as going into the race, that's for sure. But right now, all we are in is just testing, right? So, track does load in testing, which is a good sign. We're going to kind of go around here initially here. Take a look at some of the things that been recently applied. Uh-oh, stream's crapping out again. Hang on, stream. Dadgummit. Don't you dare die. Yeah, theirs is more appropriate. Those are still coming across. That's good. Come on, stream. Come on back. Wow, that thing is unstable. I'm going to have to change back, I guess, to the... Yeah, I'm going to have to change back to the other bit rate settings, because this system here is not liking this at all, apparently. Come on, stream. I'm gonna give it a second here again. Why? This one we get into the good part. Wow. Nope. Still not done. Son of a gun. Come on, stream. It is so angry right now. I'm trying to turn some things off here. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. Turn some other things off here just to make it a little bit happier. It is not happy at all right now. Leave the bare minimum things on here. Hopefully that'll settle it down. Yeah, I definitely feel it's not on the Twitch end. It's through the streaming software, so I'm giving this a chance to settle down here on both ends. Refresh that. The thing is just doing it, take care of this before we get into the race there. That's still... Come on now. Why are you doing that? Wow, I've dropped over 20,000 frames right now. That's nuts. Yeah, I'm gonna have to reiterate back down to the bitrate that I was using before. This is not working. The system is so angry right now. Yeah, it may seem good, but trust me, it's not. The delay on the stream right now is about 6 seconds. Checking the audios, I guess, as far as in comparison to the dashboard and this system. Wow. I can't change that on the fly either. Shoot, I'd have to end the stream. I don't want to do that. Yeah, I appreciate, I guess, the clarification, I guess, on your end, but if you could see how lit up it is on this end, it's not happy right now. Not happy. So I'm gonna okay, continue to monitor this. I'm gonna do some laps around here just to kind of show off, I guess, as far as what. Yeah, it's still. This thing is not happy at all. Shoot. Yeah, I'm gonna have to just reiterate, I guess, as far as back to my other bitrate. This is. I wanted to make it a little bit more clear, I guess, as far as the quality of the picture. So I do run in 720p 60 frames, but I get a lot of dithering, you know, especially playing games like this where it tends to distort the picture. So I was trying to bump up the bitrate, I guess, a little bit just to kind of, you know, offset that. And yeah, the system doesn't like that at all. So I'm just gonna have to reiterate until I can figure out another solution, I guess, to that. It was a little bit of a test thing. I've been doing that the last couple streams. Alright, so what we got here on the front stretch, got some new badging on here, as we showed earlier. We got these that were already here from last week. Got a couple modifications. There's going to be some more modifications that, as Torch has mentioned to me. We got all this signage here. This is everything that we've already witnessed in the sandbox, right? Up and through here. And also we got our victory lane, so I'm going to swing it back around. Check that out. Now, I don't think, I could be wrong, I don't think we've got it to where we can drive. This is all testing, so it's all fine. This is all fine. So there's our victory lane. It's all nice and pretty. We do have access here. I just want to see if we can get through this. Cannot. Okay, so that's what I wanted to make sure. So we're going to need to have open up those segments there, I guess, as far as be able to have access to victory lane if we want to do that. So as it stands right now, we cannot drive into that. It's all locked down as it is currently. That can be probably fixed though, first to make that more. Yep. So it is there. At least the victory lane is there. Let's take another quick lap around here. So far the stream seems to be... Oh, we can't go through that wall. So that's... Okay, that's interesting. Kind of good to know. You can actually drive through this wall? What the heck? Yeah, so there is a W section in here, I believe. Thought we had already looked at that previously. That might not be a good thing, I guess, as far as to have it caught on. Direct the front wheel? I don't know. Let's reset the car. Let's go. Caught on something there, but yeah, the fact that you can't go through that wall. Yeah, I know it's a model, but there is a W section there. Yeah, and it's kind of okay. That was more of what I was expecting to see. The fact that we have seen this in Sandbox, as far as this got, even though there's an open here, it doesn't actually hit the wall. Right? So the fact that that's all a wall. So that is a wall. The fact that it let me go through that, that's what I was... Here. Yep, so that's all a wall. So that's what I wanted to double check. So I think the fact that I was on the back side of it, that's kind of funky. Go back through. We have access. We do not have access this way. Okay, cool. go back this way. We can go through this way. This one I do not think we can. So there's only the one opening. I do remember Torch, you pointed that out before. Cannot go through that one. That's that W section as far as that wall section. It has that collidable property. Going good. Checking some things out. Let's see what we would need to adjust, I guess, as far as to have access to. And go through here. Not to the infield as far as to get to. So when I came through here, I'm gonna check this out. You'd have to come out basically the same way you came in there. So when I drove through here, it doesn't let me go this side. So there is, yeah. So this is all models. We're all on the back side of that W section, right? Get through this. Oh wow, yeah. There's a W section here. We might have to put maybe another W section in here to kind of make it so that. This is kind of weird. Something you can take into consideration. This is from my experience with leagues. There are drivers during qualified sessions that will use this as a means, I guess, to get a faster lap. So something you take into consideration as far as having access to the infield in this fashion. You know, to kind of put some booby traps in here. Because believe me and trust me, there are drivers probably still out there to this day. And when I was driving in the NR 2003 leagues, that was definitely a thing where drivers will try to get an advantage by being able to do a lap in the infield like this. And you don't even really have to run.
All the boys on the spot stand the same to go any second.
See, that's my spotter telling me, I guess, as far as. So it'll actually log laps. So that might be something just to keep in mind, I guess, as far as, you know, making it, you know, just adding some additional W sections maybe within the infield, so that it creates a disadvantage, I guess, as far as doing that. And just some, so and being able to open up, and you can do it based on how that's designed by the victory lane, as far as you can open up on left or right, keep the rest of it closed. That might help some of that. Just some considerations, I guess, to put into it is all. Alright. Stream seems to be still solid, so we're gonna go ahead. Oh, Yasso going, and she got no. Yasso got nothing. I think Torch has stolen all the thunder from the bot. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. He's got six slots and I don't know how many units of fluid against the shot. It's crazy. That is super crazy. Wow. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and try and get into a race here. Stream seems to be settled down. I turned some things off, so hopefully this does stay that way. But at this point, just for the record, I got 28,000 drop frames. That's nuts. So there's a lot of hiccuping, I guess, in there. So if you've had to refresh, if you haven't yet, you might want to. Nope, just a grumpy bot? Okay. There are no X sections blocking entrance, but there is a material. What do you mean by material set? So what I was talking about is you can open up even if you got an F section there, you can definitely just open up on left or right as far as the segment. Maybe I'll go over that, I guess, as far as once I do a race there, but I'm sure you probably know what I'm talking about, Torch. So you don't have to do it to the whole track. So it doesn't really rely on, I guess, as far as X section per se, more than it does like an F section as far as the open on left or right. And it's probably not more F section, it's just the segment of the track itself. Regardless if you've got X sections, F sections, or whatever you have in that segment of the track, you can open it on left. In this case, it'd be the left of the car, what we're looking at here on the screen. So if you want to do open on left, you want to open on left. Those particular segments, so we can open that up, I guess, as far as to get access to the actual victory lane. Yeah, that was the only point that I was. Right, and again, what I'm trying to reiterate, there's the fact that it's blocked. It's not letting me in there. That's because of the segment, right? The segment of itself, the whole track segment, not just the X section or whatever, would have to be open on the left. If it's not set to open on left, that's why it's not allowing me access in there. And like I said, we can probably look at that, I guess, as far as once I do a short little race, if I remember to. I did have to close that, so just to kind of free up some resources, I guess, is to. So the fact that you're mentioning there's no X section there, I get what you mean. That's not what's causing to have access to that spot. It's because that segment is not open on left. Okay, now, what we want to do is get out of this session here, and we want to go into race. See how this thing runs, I guess, with... I think I've gone over pretty much everything, though, as far as the new items there. We checked out that. Didn't really get a chance. We'll probably get the chance, I guess, to look at... yeah, that ground, the outer ground there, that was the other big piece, I guess, as far as that got updated, and that's huge. I showed a lot of that in the sandbox, but the fact that we'll probably be able to see a lot more of that as far as the replay of the... Here we go. Slotties? I think you had a little bit too much to drink there, maybe. I want to lay back on the drinks. Alright, here we go. Let's make sure setup's in there. Have our makeshift setup here. I'll probably end up wrecking out, but let's see what happens. We ran a pretty good race the 1 week. Started from the front. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna start back from the rear, and in the back of the pack. I'm not gonna worry about qualifying. I already know what that result is. I'm still in testing session. Out of this. Yeah, I didn't go all the way out. Oh. Gotta go to single race. And we're gonna set this up for 5%, 17 laps in this case. 41 other cars, so 42 in all. Is that right? I feel like I've already asked you this question here, Torch. You did confirm. Is it 41 total cars that they race on the track, or is it 42? Because currently this is allowing 41 components, so plus myself would be 42. Is that this? I feel like I might have asked that before, so it feels like a redundant question, but 42 total. Okay, so if it's 42, traditionally they used to run 43 back in the day. So the fact that they're currently running 42, I guess. Okay, so as long as that's been confirmed, like, yeah. So if you're looking on this particular track, once Torch eventually does consider, I guess, it is not 43 cars. So we're gonna leave clearance 70. We're not gonna do any realistic weather. We are gonna do realistic damage. Full pace lap. That still hasn't been set. As far as we'll do yellow flags. Foul restarts. As far as 95% opponent strength. That's manual. We can do auto, I guess, as far as it being 97, so it's more. That's totally up to you. We're gonna go with this. Load it up. Push nothing. And like I said, I am not going to qualify. I already know what that resulted in the last time I did it. And stream's crapping out again. I kind of figured it was going to do that. Give it a second to calm down. Holy crap! I went way low this time. Come on, stream. Son of a gun, anyway. Man, it is super not happy right now. Don't. Oh, you son of a biscuit. Oh my god, it is so unhappy right now. Wow. No. Crap. I know audio is probably still coming through here, but wow, this thing is not happy right now. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. This is totally stepping on stream right now. Wow, come on back. That is super not happy right now. Let me give it a second here to come back. Wow. Yeah, so I don't know if it's the video capture from the gaming PC to that. Well, holy crap, that totally took a dump. I'm gonna give it a second here to calm down. It does not like that at all. Ouch. Yeah, so the only way I can be able to do that is to be able to adjust the bitrate is I'd have to end the stream. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to... yeah, this is probably my own fault, to be honest. I tried to push it as far as see if I could get a better bitrate onto things, but yeah, that goes way too low. I'm already ordered 40,000 drop frames just by trying to load that in there, and that's not a problem with the track. It's just the way I've got the bitrate settings, I guess, on the system there. And I'm thinking just with what happened there, as far as me trying to load in the track with everything going on there, as far as the opponent cars and everything, it's settling down now, and that tells me it's something to do with that the video capture from that gaming PC to the streaming PC. It doesn't like that at all. It's just relates, I guess, as far as to having that higher bit rate. I normally run, just to kind of anybody knows, as far as I run around 32, 3300 bit rate, and I'm right now currently running about 4500. Not quite going to that max 6000 that Twitch does allow for streaming. And yeah, the system does not like what I've got it set to, so. Well, at least I know that now. I'll be able to adjust this, I guess, as far as for next time. What really kind of is crappy about that is the fact that it'll add dithering, I guess, to the actual picture, and that dithering, it kind of makes the picture like pixelated. I was trying to correct that, I guess, somewhat. So I've noticed that in some of the previous stream, the VODs. So I tried to correct that, and that's unfortunate. So what we could probably... Oh, that's not going to work either. I would have to end the stream. I'm trying to think of what I could do, I guess, as far as that, but I don't think that's going to... Without ending the stream, to be able to correct the bitrate, I can't do it. So, blame me, I guess, as far as for trying to make the clarity of the stream, I guess, a little... Okay. Yep, notice that in other slots there. So at least we got to be able to... Lucky number 7, I see there. Wow. Stream is still crap now. Alright, stream's crap now. I'm gonna close out. Let's do this. We're gonna close this out. Seems to be... Stream's yelling at me again here. Alright, let me switch this over this way. Yep, lucky number 7. I saw that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to end this thing pretty soon here, I think, because system is not happy right now. I want to end this, I guess, on a good note, I guess, at least anyway, before... Wow, this thing is all over the freaking place now. Yeah, I think before this thing craps out of me, I'm gonna go ahead and end this. Try to end this on a good note. At least we did get to load the track up. I guess as far as to see the track with the new items applied to it, to include the victory lane. We at least got to accomplish that. Yeah, without being able to adjust this bit rate so that I can run this without making it the whole thing just crash and burn, it's just not going to happen. And I apologize, I guess, for that. Trying to, like I said, to make the quality of the stream better. It was a total a roll of the dice, I guess, as far as to see if that was going to work properly. Kind of closing in, I guess, as far as where I wanted to end anyway, so it's... We did go over through quite a bit of information there, so I hope everybody did enjoy it, I guess, as far as what I had to show. And, oh my god. Yeah, he's definitely working the bot today, so... Yeah. Everybody said... Firebat's coming here. There's a Firebat snuck in here, too. I see you, Firebat. Cool. Anyway, like I was saying there, this is about where I wanted to end anyway. So I do appreciate if it did stop by here. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do what I consider to be a soft raid. So I'm gonna find somebody. Actually, I should probably mention too, what I'm making time for is as far as be able to do some convoys over to Deuce MS. Deuce MS is going to be putting on a convoy, I guess, over on his channel, and that's what I'm joining in on post stream here. So if you want to jump on over there, feel free to do so. He's currently not live yet, but let's put the link out here for y'all, so you can feel free to drop on it. And if you don't care to want to, that's fine as well. But that's where I'm going to be. Post fact stream there, starting at somewhere around 9 p.m. Eastern time. So I'll put it out here a few times. Stream's crapping out again. Son of a gun. Hold on, stream. Come on. Oh man, this thing's crapping out again. Anyway, hopefully everybody's catching what I'm saying there, because as far as this is where I'm going to be around 9 p.m. Eastern time. As far as doing some convoys over on Deuce MS stream. So if you want to tune into there or catch me doing some trucking, I won't be streaming it. But I will be just joining in on the convoy, I guess, over at the outhouse there for Deuce MS. Feel free to go check him out, and we're going to go ahead and end this thing. And I really appreciate all the subs. All the subs and the interaction there. Torch was just totally murdered the bot. Pretty cool. Torch with the gift sub to Jungle. John Von coming in with that resub for 7 months on the Prime. Very much appreciated. Let's go ahead and run these credits here. Making sure, as I'm having to reload some things here, so give me a second. You all have a fantastic rest of your Saturday. If I don't see you again, I will be streaming no later than more than likely Tuesday for Trucking Tuesday with American Truck. We're doing some solo play, I guess, as far as even though we got the Cruising Wyoming, I guess I already completed. I'll probably be doing some runs, I guess, as far as an ATS there still on Tuesday. I got some Idaho runs, I guess, to do there, get some of those cities discovered there. So if you want to catch any of that action, do feel free to drop on in, I guess. Then hit the follow button on the channel and get the notifications when the stream is live. Also feel free to check out social medias that are on the channel, but I'll put them out there as well. I really need a there we go. So there's all the social media, so I got them in the chat there, as well as they're on the channel. Feel free to check out the Rock Nation Discord. I'm also on the Twitter, and we got our Spline Design Studios Facebook group page, as far as it serves as our forums for our website, splinedesignstudios.com. Y'all have been great. Appreciate you all sticking by there and keeping me company, as well as yeah. So I'm just denying things here. Oh my god, I need to end this thing so fast. Yeah, feel free to just tune in, I guess, on that, and have a fantastic rest of your weekend if I don't see you anytime soon. Bye for now.